I tell you what, mate, that was the best intro that people will never, ever hear again. And I don't know whether to do it again or just let other people know that only me and you won't know how good that was. No. Sometimes you've just got to believe. Just. Are you all good here, guys? Now, Josh is coming in. He's going to sort it out. It's been a little rush this evening, guys. It's been a busy day on it for us all. Again, won't start the day with shit breaking down, and it looks like it's going to end like that. So. Alright, I tell you what though, stopping traffic in my Rasta hat. Yeah, classic IRM. Thank you, my friend. It's good to be recognised. Oh dear. Okay, give me a quick another shout out, guys, see if that makes. Alright, isn't it? It's a shame nobody can hear you now, Walt. Okay, guys, if you can at any point, obviously you can only hear me, I think. If you can hear either Walt or Josh, just quickly. I appreciate being Love Rasta. Still only me. I reckon it's this new headset you made me get. Shall we go basic? Let me see if it's just these new shiny headset. Right, wait guys, I can't hear a thing now, so... Oh wait there, talk to me again.
Alright.
Okay, I've got you back now. Thanks.
Forever Flat in the house, Eighth of Universe in the house, Zach in the house, Matt in the house, Paul on the plane in the house.
You fixed it. That was it. Adam, whatever you did, you fixed it. Well done, sir.
Game on!
Game on.
Time for a gravity break, I think.
So I'll shut up.
Alright. Let's try
now
this.
We're on the air. We're actually on the air. Okay. Shh. Everybody be quiet.
Should we try it again? Let's just pretend like none of that shit ever happened.
None of that happened.
Alright, are you ready? Let me do this. We'll get it for real.
So shall we go live now then, guys? Do you reckon?
Yeah, let's go ahead and
That sounds a great idea, bro.
So we're live. We're going live now.
Let's just do it. Put the music in, Josh. Let's just start. Sod it.
do it. Just do it, damn it.
Do it.
TGIF, everybody. Welcome to Iron Realm Media's Flat Earth Friday FringeCast. You better believe we'll get it eventually. We got a big show planned for you today, believe it or not. We have Nathan Oakley, we have Anthony Riley, and we have a ranty Flat Earth Shane Cook. This is going to be a heck of a show. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be good. And welcome, everybody. Man, we'll do it. We will do it. Just have some patience. But yeah, we do have Nathan Oakley, Anthony Riley, and Ranty coming on. We had them on our show this morning over there on TFR. That went much more smoothly than we are today. But Walter says it was a heck of an interview because we've already gone through all of this once already. You guys just didn't hear a word of it. But yeah, it did turn out really well.
It was amazing. It was great. It's one of the aha moments. I think I said that before. Yeah.
This hasn't lived up to it.
There waiting for us in the chat. We appreciate it. Paul on the plane, Zach, Bruno, stopping traffic in my Rasta hat. Forever Flat, Matt H. Who is that? The Adam Meakin. Who in the hell?
I know that.
Kicked that dude out. Who am I missing? I know I missed somebody. I saw somebody else. Who was it? Sarah Christina. Hi there. So yeah, if you guys missed it this morning over on TFR, first of all, shame on you because it is Ferric Friday every Friday morning over there on the Ironworks.
Shame.
But you should be there checking us out in the morning. We're there. You should be there. I finally got the chat working. No, it's not showing me the participants. I give up. I was trying to get the whole list. If I missed anybody, I love you too. I'm sure I did. I am so sorry. I love you. This is for you.
But we did have a hell of a day. Adam, you were even over there in chat this morning, weren't you?
I got a little bit free for a Friday morning. I begged everyone, please, 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 let me just protect me. Let me just have a couple of hours kind of hiding, and because I really wanted to listen as well. Because even though I know what's going off, just hearing it being announced, and that was a little bit rushed with you guys last night. Walt had other shit exploding. Well. So do you know what I mean? So it was just, I wanted to kind of hear you guys with it as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and shout out to Nathan. I thought he did a grand opening to kind of explain it for a radio audience, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting stuff. Like I say, not necessarily stuff that's new to us, but I mean, for me, one of the first things, my wife's been away this week, and that's been great. I've been on the computer all the time, but it was one of the first things I kind of said to her, you know, this has come out now, and I was in the show with Nathan's show, and again, the thing I alluded to, that, you know, this is stuff that there's a number of people, Ranty amongst them, that have seen this, and hopefully now there's the full understanding of what their ball maths is. Kind of the point that's going to be made tonight becomes hopefully a lot more understandable and then more poignant. I think we're going to show a video of Taboo Conspiracies, aren't we, hopefully at some point, just which sums it up fantastically, I think, and puts it in a frame of reference with Mont Blanc and Grand Tourmaline, whatever it's called. So yeah, really looking forward to it, because it is something that's been part of the maths that I've been wanting to describe, and we'll get onto some of the stuff that really does validate it in the scientific world as well. Hopefully I've got a little bit of that to look at. But yeah, look, I am excited, Josh, because it is a really big thing, and hence the pre-ramble. I don't want to forget to mention. So yeah, looking forward to it, mate.
Well, here's what's weird is this: it's not anything new, right? We're not presenting new information today, but over the last 36 hours, my brain has been a little broken, because although it's not new information, there were a few new tumblers that sort of fell into place. And there's a huge disconnect that I just didn't realize. Not that it didn't make sense, not that I didn't understand it. It just never even occurred to me. But it's that disconnect between being an observer and being an observer that's observing an observer observing something, if you get my meaning. So you're either seeing something or you're looking at somebody else seeing something. And there's a huge disconnect in how measurements are made depending on which one you are. And it just had never occurred to me until, of course, Ranty and Anthony and Nathan and everybody drill it home for the super dense, mainly the ball earthers, but luckily I fall into that category too, so eventually I got it. And it was amazing. It was great. I can't wait to hear them explain it. And we'll have visuals and everything now, so hopefully it'll work at least a little better than it did on
Shark Boat. I'm gonna come to that. I've got a special OBS screen in dedication of Ranty Shark Boat, but that's exactly it, Josh. For me, it's what I've always probably poorly explained. Oh, not even bothered to explain really, because it was a thing. But what I've kind of always reiterated is that maths is beautiful. It explains stuff as long as it's describing the reality that you're actually looking at. And that for me is the kind of the crux of this, is what I've always said. It's not describing the reality. The maths is correct for the picture they've drawn, but as you can see, the picture they've drawn isn't reality. And that's a crucial thing with maths, is how if we don't really fully understand it, we can be colluded into thinking that it's correct, because with our understanding the maths adds up. It's very difficult sometimes to kind of demonstrate how the maths is representing the reality that you're asking it to do so. And I think the nature of the show on Nathan's channel, it's kind of brought out and it exploded this week with Riley, didn't it, really, in terms of, as you say, kind of having that eureka moment. And it's that kind of environment which I think is an engagement with the ballers which has thrown it right into the limelight, hence why you guys mentioned it this morning. As Nathan said to us, its time has come, hasn't it? And I think it really is probably something I should shut up rambling, get the guys lined up, get them on.
I think he's actually looking for us on Skype. I've seen him
I'll do it.
into 2 or 3 different groups, so let's get him in here.
I'll get it sorted.
Is it just
and
Nathan, or did we get a hold of everybody? I'm not even sure.
leave it with me.
I wanted to give a quick shout out to Stopping Traffic in my Rasta hat, who is dropping knowledge like it's cool, apparently, and I would have never guessed, but today is National Donut Day, and God knows I love my donuts.
Time to make the donut.
So I wanted to thank you for that little bit of knowledge, because that's going to give me something to do after the show's over. I'm going to go get a donut.
Is that why my icon on my phone changed to a donut today?
I'm not sure. I
thought my phone was taking the piss out of me. It was like you've turned into Homer Simpson or something.
Welcome to the 21st century, Adam.
I don't like that. It's like these cars that break for you now. I don't like it. That's not the technology I want.
Well, it's better than the cars that don't break for you.
They don't break. I can drive a car. I don't need the car worrying about me, thinking I'll anticipate for him. By the way, nice T-shirt, Josh.
Oh, you like that T-shirt? I can turn my light back on to get a little more visible. Look at this.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Dig it. You like that? That says Iron Realm Media, for those that can't see it, or maybe it's backwards. But yep, I got the package yesterday. And who'd have thought? Who would have ever thought that it took only 2 days to get from Adam's to my house? That's how we know we're living in the 21st century. That's more amazing than anything.
If we were on a ball, it would have taken at least 3 days.
Yeah, because you've got to go like the Great Circle route, haven't you? You can't go as the crow flies.
Hey, I tell you what, Anthony. Here's the irony of it, mate. It went from my house in Nottingham. Josh tracked it up to Liverpool, then from Liverpool back to Nottingham, and then over to America because it flew from East Midlands Airport. That is the modern world summed up for you in logistics, mate.
Yeah.
But it probably went to say it probably went over there just to say, look, we were all supporting you, and unfortunate unfortunate on the European Cup final, bruv. So
gutted, man. Do you know what? That goalkeeper, man, he made 2 of the biggest clangers that you'll ever see in competitive football in a final. Yeah. And you got to feel for the manager because he's had faith in him. And let's be honest, he's the weaker of the 2 goalkeepers. And ultimately, the other goalkeeper wouldn't have done them mistakes. However, the other goalkeeper would have made mistakes further in the competition that probably might not have got us to the final at all. So it's just kind of like, do you trust the keeper's choice? Do you trust the manager's choice and support him? Or do you say, come on, get rid? And I'm really on the fence with it, me. I'm watching it.
In Klopp, you trust, surely. The only thing I was disappointed with is that, unfortunately, it turns out he's not eligible for an England cap and we can't take him to the World Cup, mate. And I thought he'd be a perfect candidate for an England goalkeeper at a World Cup with that performance. So, yeah.
Who are you talking about?
Your keeper. It's kind of like Joe Hart, Robert Green. It's kind of like England performances in World Cups. Their goalkeepers kind of throw it in the net, and that was a good example. I'll get off flat earth, even though a pitch is flat. I'll get off football. Is it just you, or have we got Nathan as well? Or
I'm here.
I shall bring you in, sir, and eradicate my face. So
I've got to say, every time I see Josh, I see that there's more and more stuff in his bedroom or office or wherever he is. I see new shelves.
The shelves I don't think are new. Most of what I have new can't be seen. Most of it is kit related.
It might be something to do with perspective.
You just have to need some Marmite layer.
Yeah.
Before we get on
from the side, the room is even bigger, so it's.
Well, that's the other 300 cubicles of 3 other people also running live streams pretending to be flat earthers.
Shout out to Stopping Traffic in my Rasta hat in chat, and Sarah Christina also in chat.
That's how you know we're live.
We're going to get on to this, guys. I've just rang Shane again. I'm not sure if he's here. It's ringing him, but
he's had the message. He was online a minute ago. He's probably gone making some pork scratchings. You know, like the loudest food that you could ever possibly eat whilst you're on the microphone.
Makes sense. Whilst you've got the mic.
I left this morning, or this afternoon, or whatever it was for you guys.
He made it to TFR. Does he really have to come waste his time over here on the Iron Row Media YouTube channel?
This is the place you can visualize any concept.
Right, he visited the Puppet Masters this morning, so why hang out with those puppets?
No, this is going to be great because we have the visual. I was as excited as I was for this morning's show. I think having these visuals are just gonna. It's a globe killer. We hear it all the time, but this is one of those things that's really. It's not. it's going to kill the globe. It's not a flat Earth proof yet.
Well, while we talk about visuals, Josh, I'm going to put it on if Ranty's not here, because we loved this, and
oh please,
it helped fix one of my OBS, make a new OBS window fixations. So we've got Ranty's shark boat, and I just think it's a cracker. I just think before we get on to the other stuff, you know, you guys do a hell of a lot of amazing stuff, and stuff like this, which is freaking brilliant, is probably going to go by the wayside because of tonight. But I love it so much because it's one of those ones which is just the image itself takes the piss out the ballers for us, doesn't it?
Do you know what actually fits so well? You can tell it's real because it looks so fake. It does. It really fits so well.
Broke back is right twice a day.
We better not pass this off as real, because if we try passing this off as real and it looks so fake, we're going to be well classed as Elon Musk.
It's just the way this. So this is the live video I've stuck in there in the back here. I mean, what Ranty's captured, I just think it's just brilliant. It's just talking to you, going, "Curve my arse," isn't he?
When I first saw that come across my suggested feeds, it didn't sink in on me exactly what I was looking at. Then I watched it, and it literally had me LOLing, almost falling out of the chair. Watching this shark.
And it's great because you actually see his mouth opening and closing as well.
Yeah, it's just cool.
Well, kudos to Ranty there then. So I will. I'll move on, and maybe Nathan.
Yes.
Can you do it for us again? Is this the third, fourth, fifth time today? I don't know. Probably more after listening to this afternoon. I've got the last 20 minutes of the second show today to catch up on. Because like I said, making sure I didn't have to do it this morning when you guys were on just to listen and be in chat has left me a lot to do today. So I've caught up with that, but I feel that the argument has, I was going to say continued, but they've kind of fallen away, haven't they? Let's be honest. This afternoon's was quite interesting, that you were just basically left with Alan B having a gin as the only defence against it, as far as I could see.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, do you want me to just lay it out as concisely as I can for this audience, or how do you want me to start?
I've got another OBS window which I've created for this evening. Well, I've got two. When you get to your funny point, give me a little heads up, because I've got a special one just for that. That I think only the British viewers will understand. Father Ted does not appear to have made it across the pond.
Oh, right.
But what I have got here is I've been and looked, and there's a good education in drawing perspective. So as you demonstrate, there's an art school person drawing how things disappear in the distance.
Next,
Over to you,
two
bro.
diagonal lines that meet at this dot
Okay.
or vanishing point.
I don't know if it was Walt or Josh, summed it up quite nicely earlier. I forget which one of you, so credit to
To
you.
make this into a
But
railway track,
in
draw a
essence,
series
we've
of
got
horizontal lines
an
that get
observation
closer
being made.
together
So
as they go
for
towards
this
the vanishing
first example,
point.
you have to picture that you've got 2 points. Point A is the observer, you, and your eyeballs looking out at the thing you're observing, point B. So you've only got 2 points,
Now draw
you
two more
and the thing
diagonal
you're looking
lines
at.
from the vanishing
And when you
point.
do that, in the
This
same
will
way
be
as
a
every time
road
you
that
open
is
your eyes and
parallel
look
to the
out on the
railway
world,
track that
you
we've
have to
just
take
drawn.
into account the fact that objects in the distance become smaller. Or there is
Next,
an
we
angular
draw
size
another
reduction
diagonal line
with
just to the
distance.
left of these two.
Phrase it how you will, things in the distance do get smaller, and you
Now on this
account
new
for this
diagonal line, we need to
mentally
draw a
every
short
single time you
vertical
get up
line,
or
which will be
walk
the
around or
near
look at
corner of the
anything in the
house that we
world.
can draw.
Or more importantly,
Then
when
from
you
the
push
top
the
of this
shutter on a
upright
camera,
vertical line,
the
draw
camera
another
takes in
diagonal line.
the perspective view.
Next, you could draw
Now,
a triangle
because
for
the things in the
side of
distance
the
are getting
roof,
smaller,
and then a
it
square
means
below
that
this
there's
for the
less of
side
them
of
to
the
see.
house.
Now, that's a big problem because for a baller, or for anybody who believes in the globe Earth, including this calculation is an absolutely devastating
top of the
blow
triangle of
to
the
their
roof, we
reality,
could
because
draw
they're trying to
another
convince everybody that
diagonal that goes towards
the Earth
the
is
vanishing
curved.
point, and this
So
will
they
be
have
the
to get
top of the
around
roof.
this, or
And then to
what they've
cut it
actually
short
done
so
is
it doesn't go
stolen
on
it.
forever to
So
the
they've
vanishing
stolen
point.
the fact
We
that
need to
objects in the
copy
distance get
the
smaller
side of
and
the triangle
rearrange
on the
their
right,
mathematical
and copy that
calculation to
angle,
give you
put
a
back to the
third
house,
viewing
and
point.
then we'll get
So
a
instead
roof
of
that will work
objects in the distance
one-point
getting
perspective.
smaller, they can maintain the size of
Now,
a
to this house,
1,000-foot
you could add
mountain,
a
for
door and some
example,
windows
by
maybe, and so
removing
the door, the uprights of the door
calculation
will be vertical,
from the
and the
actual
uprights of the window
observation.
will be
And they do
vertical.
it by putting
And the
you 90
diagonals
degrees
will follow
adjacent to the
diagonals that we've
observer
already
and the
got,
target,
again, going
which
towards
keeps
this one
the
vanishing point, or one
objects.
point
So if you had
perspective, you need
a
one
line
vanishing
that you were
point,
looking down,
and all
Ranty
of
did
the
this by
parallel
example
lines
this
need to
morning
go
with
towards that
matchsticks.
one vanishing
So
point.
for the first
So now
example,
we
you're
have
looking
a
down a line of
horizon with
matchsticks
a
that you've
railway
stood
track
all
going
on
to the
end.
vanishing
And
point,
as you
and
look
then
down
a
that
road
line
on
of
the left,
matchsticks, they
also
get
going
smaller
towards the
and
vanishing
smaller.
point,
To your perception,
and a
the
house
angular
in
size
one-point
reduces into the
perspective as well,
distance.
just a
However, if you
simple
go
house.
90
Now on the
degrees
right-hand
to
side,
the
we've got some
matchsticks,
space, so
you
I'll
can
do two
maintain their
more
size,
diagonal lines
and
going
therefore
towards
you
the
can
vanishing point.
calculate out
And then the third one as
how
well,
big
and
the
then on this
mountain is
third diagonal
using
line
its
on the right,
actual
I'll
size
put some
rather than its
upright
relative
verticals,
size.
and I
So
might make these
by
into lampposts or
removing
maybe
yourself
trees.
from
I'll
the
make them
observer,
into
and the easy
trees,
way
and
to
do
recognise
we
that they've
just need to
done
find
this
the top
is,
of
do
one of
you
the
see the
trees, the top
observer
of one of these
on
vertical
the
lines,
depiction?
and then to draw
So in
a
the case
line
of the
from
metabunk
this
curve
top
calculation,
base
you'll see a side
all the way to the
profile
vanishing point.
of the
And then
observer
just to make it
and the
easy for
target.
myself,
And as soon as
I'll
you
make
see
all
the
the trees
observer
the
on
same
screen,
height,
you can
but
now
they're going
recognise
away
that means
into
you're no
perspective
longer
into the
using the
distance.
eyeballs of the
So I'll just
observer.
need one diagonal
So
line
it's
to cut
not
them
a
all off at the
viewing
same height.
function. The
And so the trees that
calculation
we draw,
doesn't
they can be
actually
just very simple
calculate
trees,
the
like,
viewing
a
function that you are
cypress tree or a poplar
performing.
tree.
So every baller,
And just
every
keep them very,
globe
very
head who's
simple,
ever used
so
this
that they're really
calculation to
repeating the
prove that they're on a
shapes, and
sphere,
therefore you'll get more
bearing
of a
in mind
hang
they're
of
begging
how
the question to
one-point
begin with the
perspective works
radius
by not
value, but they've all
overcomplicating
got it
things too
wrong.
much.
Because the calculation
gonna get
isn't
smaller as they go
actually
away,
calculating for a
because
viewer
that's what
operation.
perspective
That
does.
is to say,
They're
you
always going to go away
viewing
towards
something in the
vanishing point,
distance. And when you do view
because
something in the
that's where we're
distance,
looking
you
as the
have to
viewer
take
to the
into
drawing.
account
We're looking
the
towards
angular
the
size
vanishing point,
reduction.
and
Adam,
all of
so
the parallel lines which are in
to get
the
around
environment
that
we're
or to
drawing
co-opt it,
are also
they've basically stolen
going
it
towards the
by
vanishing
removing
point.
it from the
So that makes
equation
it a very
altogether. So this is the
clear
point
image
that you
to
can
draw.
concisely put to a baller if you're ever presented
Now,
with
for
these
the
curve
railway
maths.
track,
Sorry.
And that is to
probably
say
need to
that
put
the
in a
curve
bit more
maths,
detail
they're not
so
accounting
that we
for
can actually
perspective.
get the bars of metal
I
going
hate to
away
interrupt,
into
but
the
I think
distance,
Adam still
and
has
then the
a
wooden
watch
sleepers
page
or the
open
sleepers of the railway track
because
being
apparently you've
sort
been
of,
doubled up this whole
brick-like
time.
shapes, wooden
Oh, no.
planks, which go away
Near
into
as I
the
can tell.
distance. And as they go away into distance, they get smaller. And also, if you're using, like I am, a 4B pencil or a soft
Nope, that's
pencil,
not it.
you
Let
can
me
just
know in the
press
chat.
the pencil slightly
Yeah, I think I found it. I
as
think
you
that
go
was
towards
it.
the vanishing point, and
Nope,
therefore
that says
the
muted.
lines will be slightly darker darker in the foreground, and then by the
Somebody's
midground
got
and
a video
background,
playing
the lines
apparently,
will be
maybe,
slightly
from what
paler.
I'm reading in the
And
chat.
that will help gain that sense of perspective as well as just using one-point perspective. If you change the tone
I don't know.
of the lines that you're using as well,
Not I.
it's just quite useful
Not
sometimes. So we could
Not
also
Adam either.
think about maybe adding some
Not I.
tone to this drawing, some light and dark.
Oh, shit.
So maybe if
And I
I
was
was to
on
do
mute.
that, I might put the light source on the right-hand side and have some shadows going off towards the left.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
But maybe
Going
before we do
round
that,
way.
it's a bit empty
I
on
sure
the
wish I knew what
left-hand
the
side
F
around
that was
the
all
house.
about.
So we could put some some other things. So what we could do next...
You learn something to make it better, and technology kicks you in the nuts. This is...
It is the video sound, Rasta Hat keeps saying. They still hear a video.
Again, the top of the line of the fence.
So
and the bottom
somebody's...
Of the line
I think I know
will
what it
be going
is.
towards the vanishing point, unless it's
Go on, Josh.
horizontal, and then...
This video is playing.
Yeah.
Are we getting warmer? Warmer? Wait, colder.
Oh, is it not the sound from the pencil drawing video?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was.
Aha.
So I think I got it killed. So hopefully that's it. I'm going to get out.
Still hear the video in the
I
chat?
didn't even. Now I realize what you're talking about. I thought it was just a background. I didn't know it was an actual video. Okay.
Well, it's a
Problem
background.
solved. Right. Got it. Now I'm there. I could have just drawn that. Oh well.
There's an apology there, guys. Like I said, that one was a little rushed, and it really was there just to kind of try and accentuate Nathan's point in terms of the diagrams. It was a somebody drawing perspective. Nathan, the bit you mentioned about matchsticks, it had somebody drawing the trees getting shorter and thinner as they went off into the distance. And my apologies, that's all I can say.
Would you try again, or did it come through enough to
I don't know.
Yeah, try it again.
Yeah,
Do it again.
I think so, and maybe probably the best thing,
At
Nathan.
this point, it's almost like a hit song for Nathan. He's tired of hearing it. He doesn't want to sing it anymore.
Come on.
Go to
hit
somebody else
song.
do the
We call it
karaoke version.
On the contrary, Walt, I'll happily bang this drum all day long.
There you go, brother. Sing it out loud. Then. Loud and proud.
Anyway, so I have to constantly say it to the people we're debating with because it won't sink in no matter how many times I say it. So I've got no issue writing it all again. So, okay, where do we start? So when you are taking an observation of anything, you have to take into account the fact that objects in the distance get smaller as they get further away. This is called perspective or angular size reduction. So things in the distance get smaller. Now, for the first example, you've got you, the observer, and a target in the distance. And that is the only 2 points that need to be taken into consideration. And that gives you the same point of view, first person view, as you get when you open your eyes in the morning and look out at the world at absolutely anything. You have to take into account perspective. Objects in the distance will get smaller the further away they become. So, that being said, it's a very useful thing to steal if you are trying to convince the world that they live on a sphere and boats go over a curve, because objects do converge in the distance. So bearing in mind that we are performing a viewing operation when we click a camera and take a picture, there's then a necessity to remove this aspect of reality, which is perspective, from the curve calculations. And the way they do this is essentially giving you a third point to view the observation taking place, as opposed to viewing from the observer's point of view. So if you go 90 degrees adjacent to the observation, you can then keep all of the things that you are viewing equidistant from the observer and maintain their size. So by maintaining the size of the object in the distance, you can ignore the perspective or ignore the fact that it's getting smaller the further away it is from the observer. So it's this third point of view, what we've been calling the orthographic view, that manages to maintain the size of a mountain, which may be, say, 1,000 feet for the sake of argument. It will still be 1,000 feet even if you're viewing it from 30 miles away, where in reality, when you look down the line of Ranty's example with matchsticks, if you've got one matchstick lined up in front of another, they will look smaller and smaller and smaller as they get further and further away from you. So on the debates, it was using the kind of retarded logic of Father Ted when he's trying to explain to Dougal that the toy cows in his hand, which are about an inch high, are small, whereas the cows out of the window are far away. But obviously, relatively speaking, they look the same size.
I said give me a heads up!
You're supposed to be on that button ready.
I've just
for
smashed them cows in right now. They're there.
Heads up,
Close.
But this
A
is
bit
it. They've
small.
stolen perspective. So all the Globers have done is just a magic trick. And we've lifted the curtain, pulled back the curtain on this magic trick and showed how the magic trick's done. They've stolen perspective, the fact that things get smaller as you get further away from them, and removed that very aspect from the calculations and replaced it with curvature. And the way they trick people into not noticing is they put this third point of view. Not you as the observer, which would match what you're presenting when you're calculating these things out with Metabunk or whoever else's fallacious calculation. You know, you're actually using a photograph, and that photograph does, at the moment you press the shutter, capture the angular size of everything relative to the observation position. And obviously, things in the distance are smaller than if you were right next to them, holding a tape measure. Yes, a mountain's 1,000 foot when you're standing right next to it, but it could be teeny tiny when it's 30 miles away. But the calculation will still have it at 1,000 feet. And then you've got plenty of wiggle room to introduce a curve where actually you are viewing or observing a convergence point, which we were all taught in school. So that's all they've done. They've stolen perspective and called it curvature. And the way you can use this in a useful way, so if you were to join the debate, Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, plug. If you were to join Flat Earth debate and have this conversation with a globe head, the simple get out is to say, your calculation does not account for the angular size reduction at distance, or to put it more succinctly, the mathematics do not account for perspective. And that is an assertion you can make as opposed to a question. So not does your calculation account for perspective, your calculation does not account for perspective. And that's a big problem, because every single person who has eyes to see opens their eyes and observes perspective. It's a very real fact of life that they ignore in their calculation. And they must ignore it, because that's where they've got the wiggle room to convince you that things that are going into the convergence point are actually going over a curve, because the maths say they do, with a presuppositional value of r.
That's
There you go.
That's awesome, mate.
Beautiful, sir, yes.
There's the soundboard. I think that wiggle room, Nathan, it might be a point for us maybe to think about playing the video from Taboo Conspiracy, which is
To Freebird.
maybe before we do that, it might be worth Anthony mentioning, because you know you guys have, as we alluded to a little earlier, have kind of trailblazed this week, jumped on it, and I think you alluded to it, Nathan. Ranty's had kind of triggered onto it. I've mentioned it in passing and stuff, and we on the show when Taboo Conspiracy brought this video out, kind of aired it and mentioned it as a ball buster, for want of a better phrase.
It did come from his Taboo's video, and I was looking at the video, and actually no, what happened was I saw it from Al Kay's video of Elsa Gray, I think it was called, and he was doing an observation of 1,000-foot mountain, but he was at 38 miles. And I knew from my previous experience that at 38 miles, something at 1,000 feet, that's pretty much going to be behind the curve. So all I really looked at was Al Kay's video of Elsa Craig and found out what height it was, found out how far away it was, and it's 1,100 feet at 38 miles. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, there's no way that should be seen when I'm comparing it to my own previous experiences. And I actually asked Adam, did he have any views on this? Because my view was it should be completely behind the curve, but the refractive hidden value on Metabunk kind of makes it a little bit kind of almost, you can bring back the tippy tops of it kind of thing. And obviously we all know that the minute they bring back the tippy tops of it, that's classed as enough, and therefore it's refraction, and therefore it's explained, and therefore there's nothing to worry about. But Adam said, have you seen Taboo Conspiracy's most recent video, or a video from the last couple of months? And I said no, and he sent me the link, and I watched it. And I've got to be honest, Taboo Conspiracy needs massive kudos, because he'd obviously spotted this 2 months prior. He'd done a video with all the maths in it, and he'd done all the calculations, all the workings out, and he concluded that basically the conclusion that they have is that when you apply the curve calculations, the curve calculations seem to match the perspective calculations for objects in the distance getting smaller as they go further away. And basically, Taboo Conspiracy said, well, if we apply the curve calcs, does it support a sphere Earth? And the answer is yes. However, when we apply perspective to a flat plane, that also matches what we see. But both of them can't be right. Not on the distances involved in the mountain that he's looking at. One of them must be wrong. So he basically then said we need to apply the perspective to the ball Earth maths. And when you do that, it changes everything. Because once you apply the hidden to the perspective reduction, then it becomes obvious what world we live on. So what he concluded was that if you apply the curve calcs the way that they're told, the way that they're presented by the ballers, then it falls into the ballpark figure for what you should be looking at. But obviously, when everybody puts in the height for the target that you're looking at, whatever mountain or whatever tall building it is that you're looking at, everybody puts in the height of the building as if it's touching your nose, and that's the only time that building is at that height. Because as it gets like 5, 10, 20, 30 miles away, it appears to drop size. It appears to shrink, get smaller. And obviously when it appears to get smaller, that's what we should be applying the curve calc to, the drop value or the hidden value. We shouldn't be doing this to the object right in front of your face, because obviously if we do that, then the distance that we're observing the object at should be put to 0. Shouldn't be put to anything more than 0, because it's the only time it's at full height.
Well, I'll just add a little summary, because at the end of, I know you're going to play the Taboo Conspiracy video in a moment, so there's a summary that people are, or more of a choice actually, that you're faced with at the end of the Taboo Conspiracy video, because there's two models that are potentially being played out, if you want to look at it in that way. One model accounts for the Earth being flat and the simple fact that objects in the distance get smaller, i.e. there's an angular size change. Now that's the only formula applied, and it works out with what we see. So you've got number one, flat plane and the obvious nature of perspective. Number two, you've got the ignorance of perspective. So this is the globe model. The complete ignorance of perspective, something that everybody implicitly knows is a thing, and a presupposition of an R value. So that's your choice. You've got the obvious nature of perspective and a flat plane, or a presuppositional value of R and total ignorance of perspective. So that's your choice at the end of the Taboo Conspiracy video.
I love it. I love it.
And obviously, I think you can probably conclude it once you've got your head around it. And Nathan normally starts off with the disclaimer that we are allowing them to present a presuppositional argument, and based on that presuppositional argument, we'll entertain it. But at any point, we can chop their head off and remind them that it is a presuppositional argument about the 7.6R. I mean, obviously, everybody knows there is no radius, right? So if you assume a radius, then it becomes presuppositional. But there's a second disclaimer to this whole concept, which is not everybody's going to understand this point. It's not that difficult, but a lot of people are sheep and will follow the flock. There's a few lead characters in the ball side that will lead, and if the lead characters or the protagonists say, "Oh, this is explainable. This completely supports a sphere Earth," then all the other people will follow, and they'll just support that because somebody in authority or self-proclaimed authority has said that it's okay, so they'll accept it. But it can be concluded with two simple, straightforward sentences to be able to emphasize the point in its most basic form, and that is this. 1, if we live on a plane, objects just get smaller with distance. 2, if we live on a ball, objects get smaller with distance and there's a drop to consider, or hidden. So basically make things smaller and then apply the drop or the hidden value, and then all of a sudden you're applying the hidden value to something that's a fraction of the size that it used to be, and obviously that's where the curve actually goes. That object falls behind the curve. but it's a sleight of hand trick because they're making us use the full height object, because every bowler I've ever known applies the full height of the object thing, and whatever it is you're looking at, everybody just does it. And for me, it was like, hang on a sec, Taboo Conspiracy's done all the hard work here. Now, I know for a fact that Jevon understands this. I know Bob at Globebusters does. I know that Dr. Zach does. I also know that Antonio does. So a lot of the leaders or the lead characters in the Flat Earth side, we all know this. However, it only dawned on me in the last 3 or 4 days. But what I realised is the strength of this particular piece of evidence, the lack of unity within Flat Earth in terms of pushing this piece of evidence, and the general awareness to the strength of this point. If they don't make that object smaller and then apply the hidden value to it, then we're doing ourselves out of all that distance, because the only time it's at full height is when it's touching your nose. If it's not touching your nose and it's 35, 40 miles away, then it has to be smaller. And obviously that's the bit that's the problem. They just don't account for it.
I think.
Indeed.
But with no further ado, then, shall we?
Okay, let's debunk the globe.
Yes, let's.
But
again, a
we
big
are
shout
going to
out
do
to
something
Taboo Conspiracy, who did all the
significantly
hard work. So thanks for allowing us to ride your coattails.
And if you haven't subscribed to Taboo Conspiracy, make sure you go and sub to him, because he's probably one of the most prolific observers out there. He does loads, and the guy does work full time, and he still manages to get all these observations in. And he shows that the Bedford Levels experiment at 8 miles is still flat. He's one of the best out there. So make sure if you haven't subscribed to him, make sure you go and check out his videos, because they're excellent.
Tell him IRM sent you.
Right, enough. Here we go.
Okay, let's debunk the globe again. But
And
we are
thanks,
going to do something
Nathan.
significantly
Unfortunately, he's had to
different
slip
this time.
away and has not
This
had
is
a
a
moment to
picture
say
of Mont
goodbye.
Blanc at a
Just like this
distance of
morning with
122 miles
children, and he had to slip
from
away.
the Green
So
Yetta
Have a
Peak.
great rest of your night, Nathan.
The
Thanks so
have
much.
a
photographer
wonderful
was
night.
at a
Thank you
height
so
of
much, brother. We appreciate it, and
7,142
you're welcome back as
but
always.
you don't need to know that,
Anytime.
because the height of the observer is actually
And a
not
big shout out
important for this
to
analysis,
Rob,
as we are
IRM
not
in
going to
chat. Thanks, Rob. You ought to pop on Skype. Maybe come in and say hello.
That would be cool. I know that guy. He's cool.
I miss talking to you, Rob. Or I miss,
Indeed, brother.
I miss
You and the birds.
Right. I miss you sitting here and not saying anything. I miss your presence, Rob.
Well,
But I know you're working hard.
Yep.
I'll give him a shout. Right, I'm pressing play for the 3rd time. You ready? Are you ready? I know you're going to talk us. Yeah. There you go. Take it.
We would never step on your
I
intro,
just
sir.
don't. I would be upset if you didn't.
All right, I'm done.
Here you go, bro.
Okay, let's debunk the globe again. But we are going to do something.
Ranty, for whatever reason, hasn't made it. I don't know where he is. He was online a minute ago.
This
Piss
is a
off,
picture
Riley.
of Mont Blanc at a distance of 122 miles from the Green Yetta Peak. The photographer was at a height of 7,142 feet, but you don't need to know that, because the height of the observer is actually not important for this analysis, as we are not going to calculate the usual hidden amount. However, we are going to prove the flat Earth in a different manner. I hope you'll find this interesting. The peak immediately to the right of Mont Blanc is Grand Tourmaline. Grand Tourmaline was 82 miles from the observer at the Green Yetta. Here's a picture from Beyond Horizons showing the applicable peaks, which are in the circle at the bottom left. Here are 2 of my screenshots from Google Earth showing the distances. Also, the photographer included the same distances at Beyond Horizons. Mont Blanc has an actual elevation of 15,777 feet. On the other hand, Grand Tourmaline is shorter at an actual elevation of 11,086 feet. Mont Blanc is actually 4,691 feet taller than Grand Tourmaline. But as you can see in the photo, Mont Blanc looks like it's slightly shorter than Grand Tourmaline. Now, I'm sure the Globe Zealots are screaming curvature right now, but let's ignore the lies and the spin. Does this photograph prove the alleged curvature of the Earth? The answer is no, not at all. In fact, this photograph proves the flat Earth, as this photo is impossible under the globe model. But it requires one to gain an understanding of angular size, which is very often confused with the curvature of the Earth. Now, angular size refers to the object's apparent size, based on the distance from the observer. In other words, objects appear to get smaller as they get further away from the observer. This is obvious to even a child, and it's a mathematical certainty that can be computed with online calculators. We are talking about apparent size, not actual size. In the photo, Mont Blanc has a much larger actual height of 15,777 feet, while Grand Tourmaline has an actual height of 11,086 feet. However, in the photo, Mont Blanc looks to be slightly smaller than Grand Tourmaline. We must compare the angular sizes of both peaks, and we are going to compute the angular sizes for both peaks without considering the purported curvature of the Earth. Let's begin with Mont Blanc. With a distance of 122 miles, or 644,160 feet, and an elevation of 15,777 feet, Mont Blanc has an angular size of 1.4032 degrees. Remember, this is all based on distances and sizes of the peaks. Grand Tourmaline, with an elevation of 11,086 feet, at a distance of 82 miles, or 432,960 feet, has a slightly larger apparent or angular size of 1.467 degrees. Again, Mont Blanc has an angular size of 1.4032 degrees, and Grand Tourmaline has a larger angular size of 1.467 degrees. In other words, on the flat Earth, Grand Tourmaline should appear slightly larger than Mont Blanc, just as shown in this photograph. Flat Earth passes the angular size test for this photograph. But what would happen on a ball Earth? Undoubtedly, we must still calculate the angular size of both respective peaks as we just did for the flat Earth, but we must then include the drop of curvature in accordance with accepted globe dimensions. The distance from Grignietta, where the photographer was, to Mont Blanc is 122 miles. That's a curvature drop of 9,923 feet. The distance from Grignietta to the Grand Tourmaline is 82 miles. That's a curvature drop of 4,483 feet. So then we subtract the two curvature drops to calculate the curvature drop from Grand Tourmaline to Mont Blanc from the observer's point of view. That's a difference of 5,440 feet. Therefore, under the globe model, that means that the top of Mont Blanc would have dropped an additional 5,440 feet beyond Grand Tourmaline and would then be only 10,337 feet tall with respect to the closer Grand Tourmaline at 11,086 feet. Based only on the curvature drop, does it look like Grand Tourmaline is 749 feet taller than Mont Blanc? Yes, it does, and the globe model would appear valid when you only consider curvature drop, and that's where the globe shield will want you to stop, but that is only halfway. So now let's figure in the angular size reduction, and I must reiterate, an angular size computation is without question a 100% necessity. Objects get apparently smaller with distance. That is a fact. We are going to include the angular size reduction by calculating a new angular size for the curvature adjusted and now shorter Mont Blanc, meaning the Mont Blanc that shrunk to 10,337 feet due to the alleged curvature drop. The adjusted height of Mont Blanc, if 15,777 feet minus 5,440 feet, which equals 10,337 feet. According to the angular size calculator, the adjusted angular size of Mont Blanc is now 0.91942 degrees. Now let's compare the adjusted Mont Blanc angular size with the additional curvature drop with Grand Tourmaline. Under the globe model, Mont Blanc should appear 63% the height of Grand Tourmaline. 63%. Unequivocally, and of course the liars will lie in the comments, Mont Blanc is not 63% the height of Grand Tourmaline in the photo. They are almost the same size, but Grand Tourmaline is slightly taller. Do you see how the Earth's curvature does not exist but is simply angular size and perspective? Do you see how they tricked the world? This photograph is impossible under the globe model. The globe faithful may counter that this was only caused by refraction, but ask yourself, would refraction seriously be able to accomplish this feat and remove just the curvature in the right amount to match the angular size calculation on a flat Earth? That is utter nonsense. Globe debunked.
If you could just bring up that last scene where he's got the 60% bit on.
Yeah, give me a second, bruv. I'll stick it back and I'll
Last 2 or 3 minutes.
find it. What we got here? Easy way to make pancakes. You might have to go through that, unfortunately. But it's good to know, if nothing else, isn't it? The last few minutes, yeah?
Yeah, where he's got the 63% on screen.
For God's sakes.
Right here.
Okay, let's debunk.
That bit, yeah?
I'm on a delay, aren't I? I think you got it. It was, yeah, probably.
63%, but there you go, dude.
Yeah. Now, basically, he does all the maths, right? So that means I didn't have to do the maths. And when I asked Adam, did he have a view on this perception I had that the perspective calculation adjustment must be made before you apply the hidden? Obviously, Adam come back and said, like, have you seen this video that Thingy's done, Ben? And I was like, no, I normally do catch all his videos. I've not seen that one. And I watched it the first time. It's only like 6-7 minutes long. And the first time I just thought, oh my God. And then I watched it a second time, and I watched, and literally, he describes it so brilliantly that if you pay attention to the video and listen all the way through, you can't come out of this and think that the Earth's a ball, because what he says is that if you apply the perspective calculations on a flat plane, it matches what we see. If you apply the metabunk calculations, it also matches what we see. But both sums cannot be right. One of them must be wrong over such a huge distance. And then he shows what it's like if you apply the angular size reduction because of perspective with the hidden value applied to it thereafter on a ball. And then he shows, oh, there's the difference between basically between the two models. And the sleight of hand is that they are literally applying the full height of any object when they should be applying the reduced height because of the apparent size it would be in accordance with the rules of perspective. Obviously, as Nathan was saying, when they go to orthographic view and they're looking at it side on, they keep the heights of all these things up the full heights, and obviously the only time they're at full height is when it's touching your nose. But when you do it in first person view, everything gets smaller. So when you apply the hidden value to the thing that's now getting smaller, and then drop it behind drop it into that hidden zone, it basically swallows up everything. Most of the time, it'll swallow it up, and that is the curve. So the sleight of hand trick is they're making us use the full height of objects rather than the reduced height because of perspective, the apparent size of it rather than the actual size, and nobody's really noticed it. Now, for me, it's most interesting because I look at it now from this perspective. I have 3 views on it. Is metabunk misleading people? Absolutely. We all apply the full height of objects. Is it misleading people with something that it tells us that's wrong? No. The metabunk curve calculator doesn't actually tell us stuff that's wrong because it doesn't address the object that we're looking at. Does it fail to tell us something that we should be told? And the answer is yes. It fails to tell us that the target object should be reduced in accordance with perspective and then the hidden be applied to it. It just allows that bit to be applied at full height. So it's lying by omission, right? It's not an active lie, it's a passive lie. It's telling you, it's not telling you something it should tell you.
I wouldn't put it like that, Anthony. It's,
go on.
As I said earlier, it's a complete. The point of any bit of maths is to, as best you can, represent the reality you're trying to measure and use that maths to predict stuff. Okay, and as we can see here, the predictions don't match on a ball as we're looking at the prediction.
Well,
and
to be fair, I'm just trying to be as neutral against and in favour of Metabunk as I can be, because it's really easy to jump on them and say they're wrong, and they are wrong, but it's wrong based on something they've not told us, rather than something that they have that's wrong. So I'm just being like not cautious, but I'm just being neutral. Non-biased if I can.
I'm being a little bit more clinical, mate. So there's no personalities involved. Mine's a straightforward assessment of the mathematics that's presented, and as is being shown here, I say the maths it's important that the maths represents the reality you're trying to measure and predict, and that's the whole point of this, is that as is being demonstrated and has been clearly shown, the maths does not demonstrate and is not applicable when using photographs. It is not an applicable form of maths. It does not apply to the perspective. There's nothing wrong with the maths because it's fully orthographic. But as Nathan cleanly explained, that's a third-person viewpoint of both the observer and the vantage point. It isn't what we see here, the vantage point from the viewer's perspective, and that's why it's wrong, is because the maths does not take that into account, and that's what Taboo is saying.
I do agree, but let's just consider for a minute, let's move away from Metabunk. Let's consider the flat earthers that use this calculator, because we're testing their claim, right? So we're testing their model and their maths, and it often kind of gets in the ballpark figure, and they often explain it away with a little bit of bendy light, notwithstanding the fact that light doesn't bend. Of course, it travels in straight lines, but anyway, that's a tangent. But the flat earthers, really, because there is no science for a flat earth, and let's be honest, most of us kind of the lead players in flat earth have realised this, that this angular size reduction is not taking place. I know that Jaren knows this. I know that Bob at Globebusters knows it because I've asked him. I know that Dr. Zach knows this. I know that Antonio knows this. So all the lead players have spotted this. But the bit that's missing from Flat Earth perspective is that there's not been the unity in the banging of the drums so that everybody's aware that the perspective is not being applied in the maths. For the hidden to be then applied against it, it needs to be there. But most of us have noticed it at different points in our journey, but we're not united with this one point. And this one point proves that it cannot be a ball, because if the Earth's flat, the only adjustment that we need to make is a reduction in size over distance. But if it's a ball, then you have to make a reduction in size over distance and then apply the hidden value, and that's obviously what's not happening. So basically, we've all realised, or a lot of us have realised, but because we're not united as much as what we should be, and we're not going around in a pack mentality like they do, that point hasn't been bandied about and beaten to death, and that's the reason why I'm really focusing on it. And Nathan agrees that we should beat it to flog it to death, because it's a really strong. Well, it just proves that the ball cannot be a ball. But then for the third perspective, let's consider the ballers. Now, this for me is where the psychology gets quite interesting, because it splits the ballers into two halves, or into two segments. You've got the protagonists that push the ball narrative, and these are the people that I'm pretty certain realise that this is not the way it's supposed to be done. I'm pretty certain that they know that this is wrong. They know why it's wrong, but they push it anyway. Now, then you have the other side of the ballers, which are the people that follow, and they'll, if someone says it's right on the ball side, they'll accept it because of basically conformity bias or confirmation bias. They'll just follow the sheep. So they are a sheep. They will follow the other sheep, and they will stay in that flock. Then people are the ones that are really the ones that have been deceived, and they're the ones that are victims, but they're comfortable with the uncomfortable lies, right? But the protagonists, the likes of Red's Rhetoric, you've got the Rumpus, Ruhif, M. Scott Veach. All these are the people that realise that this is actually the way we're telling it, and it's not the way that it's promoted, but they push it anyway. And they're the ones that are dishonest. So if the demographic on this one point is quite interesting, because when you look at the ballers, you've got to ask yourself, are they a sheep and following the flock and therefore deceived and victims? Or are they protagonists and pushing it and too intelligent to realise that this is actually wrong what they're pushing, but they push it anyway? And that for me is the most interesting part of it. Who's to blame? It's probably the ballers for not telling us that it was being done wrong by us in the first place, but it's also Metabunk for not telling us the truth. and then we're testing their model and working out where all the cracks are. And it takes a while, but most of us have noticed it. But we're not united enough to be able to beat this to death, and that's the bit that we really need to. So anybody that's doing the curve calcs, just be aware that they don't apply the curve to the perspective first. They just apply the drop and call it curve, and really that's it in a nutshell.
So I was reminded of Kneeling in the Grass Tyson, talking about how we're not ants on a basketball and we just can't see the curvature because we're too small. Earth is just too huge.
Yeah.
And then I want to touch back on old Mickey West and his MetaJunk calculator, because recently he had to adjust it with an advanced tab, as I understand it.
Yep.
Then had to add in the fact that you can, in fact, see curvature on that x-axis. Completely, of course, abolishing everything that Neil Snake in the Grass Tyson said.
Correct. So they've bandied about for years, at least 2 years, that the Earth's so big you can't see x-axis curvature, left to right curvature. And I could see the logic in that, so I generally accepted it. But as we were going further down the rabbit hole with the Isle of Man stuff, it became apparent that there should be x-axis curvature there. And in the end, Metabunk did in fact add an advanced tab, which now tells you that x-axis curvature is a thing. And not only is it a thing, but it's measurable in a variety of ways. It isn't that small that we can't detect it the way we're being told by the ballers currently. It's detectable in a variety of ways. Now, guess what evidence doesn't exist? You got it. X-axis curvature. But let's see it. Where is the x-axis curvature, boys and girls? Because you can measure it in a variety of ways, or various ways, according to Metabunk. So where is it, please? We'd like to see it.
Are those ways ever quantified, haven't they? I just thought
no, it just says it's either various or a variety of ways.
Oh.
I think flat earthers are not influencing or making any changes around us. We're just
we're all retards,
all
right?
lost in our little retarded echo chamber.
Yeah.
Shout out to Paul on the plane with this little phrase: "Shrink the object, then drop it."
Yeah, shrink the object, then drop it. That really is what it needs to be.
Perfect. Repeat it.
Here's another nugget of info.
We need to keep that one going. I love it.
Here's another nugget of info for you to ponder. I often cite from two papers, right? One's from MIT. It's made by a group of, apparently it's high school kids in Hong Kong. But when I say high school, I think in Hong Kong they have an extra year or two in high school, whereas in England we go to college. I think they have an extra couple of years, so they go beyond the uniform wearing high school years, and they get into the pre-university years, but it's still classed as high school. But these guys on this MIT paper basically cited the effects of refraction as negligible, and there's another paper that I cite from as well that was also from MIT, and the stuff in that paper that I cite with regards to refraction, and basically it destroys their argument that light bends. Now, M. Scott Veitch, the son of an astronaut, he claims, came on basically and challenged me on it. And I said, if you don't like it, put in a complaint and see what happens. And I laughed it off, thinking that it wouldn't happen. I mean, one of them was dated 2002, and I think the other one was 2006. But however old they actually were, I may be wrong on the dates, but they were ages old. They've been around for a long time, certainly long enough for them to be forgotten about. Do you know what I mean? They've been there a while. They're in the archive, and never thought to be seen the light of day again. Anyway, I challenged M. Scott Veitch. I said, if you don't like what they say in there and that use of that word negligible, I said, put in a complaint and see what happens, thinking that not happen. Anyway, the next day, one of the documents was removed, and the day after, the second document was removed. So within 2 days, then both them documents were offline. Now, thank God I had hard copies of them, and I still cite from it now. But don't you think it's like beyond a coincidence that M. Scott Veitch was challenged to get them removed, and then by sheer good fortune, coincidence or fluke, both documents were removed within 2 days? Is that a coincidence, or is somehow, I don't know whether he's got influence or whether somebody's watching somewhere, but that was a direct consequence of what we were challenging him with, because it managed to bloody happen.
I love it.
Yeah.
The odds of it just being a coincidence are astronomical, shall I say?
What was interesting about those documents wasn't the mathematics in them. The mathematics conform with everybody else's, but it was, as Anthony says, it was written by, or with the assistance of the teachers, if you look at it, by high school students, and the narrative that accompanies stuff is of a much more high school nature in terms of explanation, so it's a bit more basic, so you do have a bloody clue what they're on about. So I think that's why they were, and they are, so poignant, aren't they? Because they do explain it in not necessarily quite layman's terms, but in a very basic scientific way, or basic mathematics.
Yeah, which really is what makes it beautiful, because it's got pretty pictures, we can all understand it, but it was endorsed and supported by Philip Weinberg, who claims to be an undergrad, or no, a PhD physicist student who currently works in a university teaching kids about all the physics on the Earth. But he read through it and he said he could find no fault in anything that was written in there. And there's one particular paragraph on something called the vanishing zone, and it describes how every object has a section of it that the light cannot get to at certain distances. Every object. Now, the reason why it doesn't get the light, who knows? But the point is, this vanishing zone does exist, and that's the contradicting point of curvature. Because if we lived on a ball, it would say if every object would have a point where it drops behind the curvature of the Earth, and the bottom could no longer be seen, or words to that effect. But it doesn't say that. It says the vanishing zone. Every object has a point where the light can no longer hit. It doesn't say curve. It just says can't do it, and it shows it on a flat axis, straight axis. It doesn't show it on a curve. And I mean, you can interpret that like either way. You can say, well, they're just doing it orthographically and showing it on a flat plane. Or you can say, yeah, but they're also saying that there ain't no curve. They're not saying it, but they're just deliberately saying something else, which means it's not curve. But nonetheless, it's still a credible and a good citation. And I mean, the fact that it was removed within 24 hours, and then the second one within 48, and M. Scott Veitch was the one that was challenged to get it. I mean, I'm not saying the guy's got weight somewhere, but there's definitely somebody was watching that, and it might have been something to do with M. Scott Veitch, but somebody was watching it somewhere, and I just don't accept that it was a coincidence.
There's no way.
It is an odd one, that, mate, but useful documents, and I think from a validity point of view, you have to look at, strangely, why all the way up until the point that you discovered them and mentioned them on Nathan's show, and they proved such interesting points, that they sat there on the MIT database unaffected and had clearly been read by peers, and peer review is important to these guys, to be included in there in the first place. Things don't automatically appear and then get kicked out, do they? They get picked first, put in because there's merit to their inclusion.
Yeah.
So interesting that suddenly they were no longer meritable.
Yep.
As we were discussing this perspective and this angular resolution, I keep being reminded, especially with Adam's drawing background there with the video, constantly with people like Mr. West, because he's constantly on Twitter throwing his meta junk site at all of us retarded idiots, and I constantly being told perspective is only an art term. It's only something used in art so you can draw things going into the distance.
Nah,
and I'm like, okay, then why does your gigantic sun appear to be so small in our sky? Isn't that the same idea? It shrank the further away it got from Earth out there in infinite space. That's the very thing we're trying to describe. We're just putting it on a flat freaking surface. It gets smaller the further away it goes. And if that's what's happening, there's your curve. It's done.
Yep.
These people. I was actually kind of looking over at the site. I did not realize that his site actually had only been up since basically Flat Earth started taking off in the media here. I thought for some reason it was one that had kind of been around since 9/11, or kind of debunking things for a long time. But from what I'm seeing, he apparently was frightened by some ghost magazines as a kid and decided to create this metabunk site in 2014. So like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Guys, I hate to go off topic here, but or sideways just a little bit. But Anthony was talking in terms of keeping the ball rolling. Bad phrase. Keeping the ball flat, that didn't work. Whatever. Anyway, keeping the fires burning in terms of this thing. And I've noticed that Paul's in the chat, and I don't know if he can give us a shout out if he's free, but he's the kind of guy that can carry it over there, because I don't know.
Right now, Paul is driving and flatting. You shouldn't flat and drive. You'll get in an accident. He said he was running off the road here and all this awesome information, so he may be able to pull over and get with us. But right now, I know he's out and about.
Safer to talk than text, but
right. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Nope. Good call, Adam. Didn't even think about it, but you're right.
That's why you're the scientist and we're just talking heads.
You know that does my head in, that one. You know, I heard it. You know when the was at the Flat Earth conference and there was the young physicists there, and one of them, they all gave it overrun a bit because they all gave a little bit of spiel and introduction, and one of them said, you know, I'm training to be a scientist, and I sat there thinking, what the bloody hell does that actually mean? Do you know what I mean? And a scientist is anybody that conducts an experiment via the scientific method. That makes you, the second you do that, you are a scientist. There isn't a qualification you get that says scientist. Do you know what I mean? We've all got BScs, MScs, whatever, you know what I mean? Or whatever. But
when I was
actually,
4 trying to figure out why the little submarine out of the cereal was going up and down in the tub with the baking powder or baking soda, you know, that was science for me.
Right, it's a good job Nathan's gone. It's a good job Nathan's gone, because he'd have taken that experiment apart, proved it weren't scientific, and you won't be.
That's what started it all, though, because I went from there to, you know, rockets and the whole 9 yards. Rockets work on the ground; they just don't work up in space.
Well, while we're rambling on stuff, Anthony, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's come out of this, and there's a lot of shit and flack you guys have taken and analysed and viewed and the likes, and there's a lot of maths that you've had thrown in your face by these guys. Yep. When are you planning a couple of weeks off to sit down, redo it all for them, and turn it into a small, or probably a large suppository shaped item?
Well, I mean, the problem with YouTube is it's fragmented, isn't it? It's not like a website where you can put all the pieces of evidence in one place. Absolutely. It's not that easy to do. I'm not sure how best to do it, to be honest with you.
It's tough with lengthy shows like here and on Nathan's channel, because the nuggets are there. They're freaking all over the place. But to go back through all those hours and dig them out is a humongous undertaking.
Yeah, it is.
Is it not reasonable to ask you to go through all of Nathan's shows, and whenever they actually read out a number, for you to overdub it? So when they say it should be 20 foot obscured, you go 400 foot obscured.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to practice your M. Scott Veach voices, or your Al K voice.
Al K. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we do need to collate all the evidences into like a flat Earth concordance or something, because there's that much of it, and it gets lost in like a video that somebody did 3 years ago kind of thing, and it relies on the mind to be able to cite from it. And you know what it's like, the mind loses grey matter over time. You forget stuff that you once knew, and you remember it but can't remember where it was from. And that fragmented nature of the YouTube flat Earth is probably going to do us damage in the long term. We need to have like a collective site where only certain people contribute to it, and it's endorsed by everybody, like a particular website. And I don't know how but we need something, because everything would get lost in YouTube. And can you imagine if they just deleted like 10 channels and they picked 10 of the biggest protagonists in Flat Earth and just deleted the channels because reasons? I mean, Globebusters got a community strike for basically offending no fuel on, was it jet engines or something like that? No fuel on planes, I think it was. The fuel in the planes apparently got offended, and there was a community strike put in.
Are you kidding? I have missed this one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they got a community strike because it was offensive hatred or racial hatred or something like that. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was something to do with the no fuel on plane jumbo jets argument. And obviously somebody got offended, somebody reported it, it stuck, it was appealed, it didn't stick. So yeah, that's why Globebusters is down for 3 months. But can you imagine if they deleted 10 people's channels, just like Jaren, for example, Jaren, Globebusters, and a few, just pick 5 other people.
Right, Ron Jones or anybody.
Yeah, that's an awful lot of work that's gone.
Josh.
Shall I insert?
Leave it with you, bro.
Yeah, so last week's show was awesome, and I loved it because it was a music show, and it was great because we had the content creators on, right? They were performing music live. This was performing with his guitar live, and we had Guy Williams on. We were playing Guy's stuff from the Bilderberg group, and I'm like, well, perfect. This way, we're not going to get the community, we're not going to get the copyright strike, and it's going to be awesome because this will be the first time I don't get that email. It's just nice not to have to worry about it. I mean, we don't make a call for money, but it's just nice not to have to worry about it. So sure as shit, Saturday morning, I wake up and there it is. We received a copyright strike. So I go on to see, well, what would have got. And there it is. It's Guy Williams stuff. It's stuff from the Bilderberg group. One of these random people just sort of put out one of those blanket copyright strikes to see if they can win it. I'm like, oh, well, that's just stupid. I'm like, I'll appeal it because I've got Guy on there. I can quote him and giving us permission to use it, telling us to use it. And that's what I put on in my comment section. I said, well, the creator is on this show, on this video, giving us permission to use this particular audio. So I'm like, it's in the bag. And 18 hours later, he lost. Apparently, that's having Guy Williams give us permission to use his work on the show in which we use his work wasn't enough to avoid that copyright strike. I thought it was
really?
Yeah, can you believe that?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I thought for sure I had it in the bag. I'm like, oh, this is an easy appeal. This is an easy win, an easy victory for me over YouTube. I have him giving us permission. All they have to do is listen to the stuff that they're challenging and go forward about 5 minutes, and they'll hear him give us permission. But nope. They said, screw it. So some random people is going to be getting our 9 cents instead of us getting that 9 cents.
It's probably a good job that Issa's sound levels were so bad that some other bloke in Uzbekistan hasn't been able to get the copyright on it as well.
I'm sure they probably tried.
Shocking, isn't it? I think that the other point I was alluding to, Josh, is probably data storage.
Data storage? Well, I didn't know how in depth we wanted to go with data storage.
Well, I think this kind of raised it, and it seems a pertinent point for certain flat earthers to have that. And as we've mentioned in the past, haven't we? We've been doing some work on an internet level to kind of protect this work. And whilst we thought it might be a bit quicker, as all things IT, it takes ages, doesn't it? Apparently.
Oh yeah.
Apparently so. They're all playing Fortnite. That's why. Too busy. So we've kind of got something, Anthony. You're probably a good sounding board.
I'm sorry, guys. You have to excuse me for about 5 minutes. I apologize.
No worries, bro.
Will do. You are excused.
Are you there, Anthony? Yeah. I think he's excused as well.
Sorry, was that you talk to me?
Yeah. So.
Sorry, the phone rang in the background. What was the question?
Well, it's not really a question. It was, as you were alluding to, storage of flat Earth stuff, it being struck, and we've obviously been quite interested in doing that. We've protected our own stuff, and we're looking at, you know, expanding that a little bit to support the community. And I just wondered what your kind of desires or comments on what you were saying in terms of support and also access. I mean,
yeah, help us flesh it out exactly, because you can understand what a security risk it would be, right? Because all it would take is one dedicated, motivated baller to somehow gain entrance.
Yeah, you'd have to have like a backup of a backup of a backup, wouldn't you?
And there'd also need to be some sort of vetting process as to who gets to have like a contributor access and basically any access at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still trying to work on logistics, not just storage wise or bandwidth wise, but again, access wise, and how to keep it secure, but still be able to allow at least a select few.
I think many. Well, Jaron's been on a couple of times, hasn't he? And we've kind of been listening to what people wish we had the ability to do. As well, and we've kind of got that ability right now. Now, Jaron's talked about a data dump and some of the connections that, and we've kind of got an open remit in terms of, it's a bit like flat Earth, isn't it? It's going to be what we make of it, guys. So at the moment, I've kind of gone off and done what I would like to have access to, and we're kind of suggesting what else is out there. You mentioned one thing in terms of security of tenure of previously broadcast material, and that's something we've protected ourselves. But like that was before I go off on another ramble. One of the guys, and a big shout out to this guy, a guy called Ether, through chatting with stuff like him at the conference, it kind of came out what he's achieved on his own in his own little world, and he's a guy from Lithuania, and what he's offered me and is about to receive and is going to be put there for guys like you to access is huge. I mean, it's basically just short of 2 terabytes of ebooks of all of the, you name it. You name the topic, you name the field that's kind of interest, historical books, documents, probably stuff that Jaron would love to get original copies of. Do you know what I mean? But they're all there, and we're kind of, that's kind of phase one. And I'll say it again, a huge shout out to you for, mate, you know, what you've contributed here, just for me, is absolutely awesome. I know Walt, before he disappeared, will be exceptionally excited. I mean, like I say, you name it, if there's a slight link to Flat Earth, this guy's kind of isolated it, downloaded all these books, and they're all there as PDF, ready for you to just read at your leisure. And I know for me, from a researching point of view, that kind of stuff can take you hours and hours and hours, and to have those things at our fingertips as we do accelerate. Data dissemination is one of the and useful databases relevant to the people that are searching is one of the key things. And so again, it's a good opportunity. You kind of brought it up, and like I say, it's not fully finished yet. But if you could add anything, and a shout out to, like I've said, to Jaron, because I know he had aspirations on doing stuff. We've kind of got the hardware in place, mate, and the software, and also security access. So it's out there, guys. We're listening. I know I don't listen much, I talk a lot, but we are listening, and whatever, and I will shut up now, Anthony, whatever's out there, you know, I'm desperate to kind of provide a little bit of support to the community.
Well, I think if you look at the costs, am I still coming through loud enough, or am I too quiet?
You're a bit tinny.
A little tinny. It just sounds like you're on a different mic. Is all it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of the room now. I'm laying on the sofa because it's like getting into rest mode tonight. But if you look at the cost of storage now on high density discs, I mean, you're getting like 8 terabyte hard drives now for 200 quid, and that's a huge amount of space. And obviously, you can get like external hard drive caddies that'll do what's it called now? Where you stripe them together. I can't remember what it's called. RAID. You can do them in RAID 0 or RAID 1 now for not a lot of money, and it can be network accessible as well. So it's like you can have hard copies of these things remotely, but also on a cloud as well. And it's like, I don't even know. I know what's possible, but I don't know how to do it myself. But with the cost of hard drives these days, you know, the world's your limit, really, isn't it? You can have as much as you want for not a lot of money.
I don't disagree with that. That's a fair statement. I think the point is this. As I'll refer to Ether again. You know, there's 2 terabytes of data there, but that's probably about 6 months worth of work. Downloading that data, cataloging it, putting it there so that if you and in a searchable form. So if you type the author in, flamenco, whatever, you know what I mean. All of that stuff's there. It's then indexed for you, and that's what I'm suggesting, not the ability to necessarily just store data, because as you say, it's becoming more and more affordable, but actually having a resource where, like I say, as Jaron knew a long time ago, is there for the community to access, and it's kind of relevant data to us rather than on page 27 of Google finally finding something of relevance.
And
I don't know is the answer to your question, but I know it's possible.
Oh, it's possible. We've got it, mate. What I'm saying is, that's kind of where we're at now. Is there any other stuff other than adding to an accessible database? Is there any other stuff, as you kind of alluded to there, kind of maybe looking at possibly storage dumping and preserving flat earth content from anyone that's requesting it? Do you know what I mean? It's quite a...
Yeah, that is something that we need to consider doing, archiving stuff, so that, I mean, we've all got like stuff that we consider to be the strongest evidences, and we've got stuff that categorizes itself into not so strong, and then obviously stuff that is wrong. But we do need to kind of catalog like a database of that, and then basically protect it, because it's valuable stuff. I mean, think about it: if you lose your hard drive, you lose so much stuff. And it's like, do you want to lose all that stuff? But if they turn off YouTube, and then our little corner of the YouTube world didn't exist anymore because YouTube was gone, that'd be a bit of a problem, wouldn't it?
So really, I think what with the least amount of fanfare possible, I this is Adam's way of announcing that basically he has set up the network. Essentially, he's got the secure network. We're building space. We've got some space now, even apart from the 2 terabytes, but we have space in which to add. So we are in the process of building this utility, this tool. Hopefully, it could be just as useful as Flat Earth Core does out there performing their experiments, so people can use and refer back to them. This will ideally be a tool in a flat earther's arsenal in which to draw from.
Yeah.
So any input, if you like the papers that were up on the MIT website that were mysteriously taken down, we could have a whole collection of just, scientific papers.
Yeah.
Searchable by just the way all the books are, and we'll just be able to keep indexing all this information, and we'll build it and back it up and build it and back it up, and then and this is again where we have to figure out a vetting process and who we can actually just allow in. But again, it would be a usable, searchable database of information.
I'll stop being so coy then, Josh. So what I've set up, and what we've also got, Anthony, is, as Josh is alluding to there, it's kind of like a library, but a library card for you to deposit stuff in yourself, a kind of place that you've only got private access to, and then also you can then make that document, so you can keep that document there, that and then when you're happy with it, make it available to everybody else that's got the library card. So we're kind of building not just a depository, but kind of functionality into access and how you can put stuff down there. Like I said, I've kind of got levels of what I would want, and what I want from it, and what would be really useful for me. But like I said, there's no hard and fast rules. It is, say, please contribute is what I'm asking. And
oh, are you asking for the MIT papers? Is that what you're getting at?
no, I've got them. You sent me. That's a really good point, Andy. So a few of us have got those papers, haven't we? We've all got them because they're freaking brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Right, and I'll make sure that I put them in my library on there. But the point is that if you had this library card, you could stick it into the public domain that anybody can go and access. Now, there will be other levels of, a bit like FE Core, where if you want to just kind of share discussion, a bit like we do on Skype, you know, share discussion, but more documentation or video, whatever, any kind of media, within a certain group as well. You've got the ability to do that until you develop it to a point that you want to publish it available for anybody, or whatever kind of levels the community thinks is appropriate. Because, and when I say levels, it's unfortunate you say that because there are so many shithouses out there, aren't there? You know what I mean? Put it crudely, and that's the only reason there's that kind of consideration.
Yeah.
But I suppose I'm not talking to you. It really is to everybody out there. You know, what do we need, guys? What do we need? What do you want? What do you need? And these are things we're trying to consider and build into this. So
we need an equivalent to a flat Earth Bible, where we have categories, headings, and it starts off with, in the beginning we all thought it was a ball. And then by the end it says, isn't the last words amen? The last word should be flat. So it's kind of like we need some kind of like a Bible with all footnotes in it, and the footnotes take you to different videos with different clips in it, and you know, and you can, I don't know, like an interactive, intuitive concordance where it's all sectioned off into sections. And if you wanted to look up something on refraction, you could find somebody somewhere that's done a really good advert on something refractive or whatever, and then we'd all have the same access to information at our fingertips. I mean, that to me sounds probably the most logical way to try and do it, but practically, who knows? I don't know how it all works, but there will be somebody that knows how to get it to work properly. But
okay, so I'll stop being bashful again. I've got somebody that knows how to work. He's already set it up. It does work. It literally is a matter now of building on the small gifts that we've been given in terms of, like I said, in terms of ethers data, which is not a small gift. It's huge, man. It's huge. And it's a matter of where do we want to take it from here. I'm not saying can we find somebody. We've got people, the systems are there, and they're ready to be expanded on. So it's a matter of,
are you asking me to do something or say something?
No, I'm literally, like I say, mate, I'm not necessarily talking to you, dude. This wasn't planned, but it really is a good opportunity to kind of look at where we are now. You know, that's probably why we're a little bit ahead of schedule. But look at what's coming out. you know, this stuff now that's being aired that isn't, as you were alluding to earlier, you know, we've had to sit there, haven't we, and we've had to take their ball maths and humour it, whatever. But actually now we're at the point now at a level of understanding that we actually don't do that anymore. We ask them to please do your ball maths. It is essential for you to put your curvature calculator. You can stick your unproven 7/6 refraction as well, have it. But please, let's be scientific and include perspective and how things work and view. And also, let's make sure the mathematics represents what we're viewing, not change the point of view and try and contort the mathematics so that curvature represents perspective and we forget all about perspective.
Yeah.
And that's big, mate. That's big. No matter what we think, you know, if I think back a year ago, irrespective of my understanding, actually, for us all to be sat here now going, and of all the crap we've talked with Metabunk and all the adjustments and this, as it's held up as this albeit seeing knowledge of how we can measure things. You know, I've done my calculations, I disagree with it and stuff and that, but to be actually sitting here now and absolutely laughing at it and looking at the ballers with nothing, mate, absolutely, like I said earlier, other than Alan with his gin and tonic, you know, because the ice cream jokes wore thin. So
it's got to the point where the best that they've got is Soundly. Because it's the most empirical piece of evidence that they've got. And obviously we all look at Soundly and we see that shimmering, refracting, distorted, nonsense, miragey thing on the horizon that they all accept as curvature and don't accept that we can recreate the exact same effect with a straight road, and they still think and push that it's curve, regardless that it looks like a basketball. But that really is the best that they've got now. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, everybody laughs at Soundly. He thinks that he's got it, and the ballers think that he's got it. But everybody else in the flat earth laughs at him because
you don't need a straight road. You only need a bit of Lego and a tabletop, as I've shown. Yeah, it's optical tricks, but yeah, I mean, Soundly is all the. It's interesting, isn't it? You wonder whether maybe next year's Nobel Awards he might be given something in a vain attempt for him to, because he is the only thing they've got left to hold up. Do you know what I mean? So he's going to have to get something of some you know, scientific recognition, because they quote him so often that he must have some kind of scientific validity. So we'll. I mean, that is the force of it, isn't it? That literally, and Nathan holds them up to that. You know, you'll sit there for a while and asking for just evidence, just in an honest way, and the best they'll come back with is Soundly, and that speaks volumes, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
I mean, it'd be interesting to know how many people actually think that Soundly is showing the curve of the Earth now, that they've accepted that x-axis curvature is a thing. Because for the last 2 years, x-axis curvature, well, the Earth's too big, you moron. You wouldn't expect to see any curvature. But now it's there and it's measurable in a variety of ways. That kind of changes things a lot, because it's not that big anymore. That argument that they've had for all that time doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. They've had to do away with that because praise Helios, praise Metabunk. He's told them that it is measurable in a variety of ways. So it's like, well, it's all their arguments are eroding away now. It's getting to the point where Nathan's not going to have a show anymore because there won't actually be a debate anymore.
I'll play the Father Ted clip again. That's the point, mate. If you look at Dougal's face on here, it kind of sums it up. That's kind of where they're at now. What do you mean that all the maths I believed in made sense? What do you mean it's nonsense? What do you mean it doesn't represent reality? What do you mean that plastic cows not the same size as the one in the distance. You know what I mean? It's kind of where they're at, and you've alluded to it in terms of the numbers, and what's heartening is the number of ballers that, even the ones that aren't prepared to talk or join in and defend the platform now, which is, I think, is great as well. But if you look at it, there's none of the ballers there. There used to be lots of them. There's very few of them now, and there's discernible patterns to their behaviour because they don't have anything to come in with. And like I said, the past few days have been very noticeable. But the best they've had is Alan B, really, a drunken Ruhif, and I don't say this in a horrible way, but genuinely, guys, there's a guy called P Mars out there that, if you watch, you know, from a mental health point of view, if there's anybody out there that isn't or does know him outside of YouTube, and that guy needs just checking up on, frankly. It's kind of worrying. But if you look at it, there's nothing left in terms of argument, is the point. And it's descended into them, I say, either pretending they're mad, becoming on ridiculously drunk, just throwing ad hominems. It's their behaviour's pathetic, and I welcome it, because any newbies out there coming into it, really, if that's what how they represent their church, then go ahead.
Well said.
I remember just 3 months ago, big flat earth hitters. I'm not going to say any names, but like the biggest two that you can think of, were very openly critical of Nathan and what Nathan was doing, because in their eyes, Nathan was giving these idiots on the ball side somewhere for them to go, because really nobody really wants them around anyway. But Nathan was giving them what looked like safe haven. But actually, what's turned out to happen to be now is the case that these guys are getting battered all over the place. And those two main protagonists on our side that were very critical of Nathan have actually very recently said how good a job he's doing, because we are smashing him. Now, obviously, the audience that Nathan has was trolley, but the trolls are not as prevalent anymore, and there's an awful lot of new faces coming into it that are genuinely coming into it asking the right questions. And it's got to the point where we thought that these people were trolls because they'd come in and say something like, yeah, how do you explain the sunset? Or what about the stars? And me and Nathan are sat looking at each other, hovering over the eject button, waiting for them to say something that would give the game away that they are just a troll. And we realised that these guys are genuine. These are new people that are coming into Flat Earth from wherever they found it from, and they're coming in asking all the basic, base one questions. And me and Nathan are that like on edge and triggered, so we're delicately balanced between kicking people because we think that they're just a porn bomb, and we're realizing that these are actually new people that are not on the scene. They've just come on the scene recently, and they're coming in genuinely asking questions. And we realised that the value of the show isn't just baller bashing, it's actually providing a platform for people not just to go on the show and present evidence in favour of flat, but it's to go on and realise just by watching that these ballers are getting absolutely destroyed. Now, these people need to see that these ballers are getting murked, because if they don't see that these ballers are getting murked, they'll realise, or they'll still accept that it's a ball. Now, ultimately, these guys, these new people now are seeing these ballers getting murked day in, day out. We're laughing at them. We've got to the point now where we can laugh at them. I mean, even Sean Hufford yesterday did a show with Geo Streber, and in it they were trying to challenge the application of my point, which was that perspective needs to be applied before you do the hidden values. And he was showing this orthographic representation but calling it perspective. And I was like, you're either dishonest or you just don't get it. Now, it could be either. But he did this show, and he basically, they all held each other's willies because they're all circle jerking. And it was completely wrong. But somehow, they all thought it was right. And I'm like, you guys are all morons.
Well, this is the point, Anthony. If you actually look back, not just over Nathan's shows, but I remember you appear. I don't know. That was the first. Well, for me, first time I seen you on Patricia's show, appearing there. And over time, we've broken down argument after argument after argument, and these guys kind of present just so stories for everything. For want of a better phrase. And you know, if I think back to 2.5 years ago, how much time I'm going to switch it's getting late. Switch scenes in a second. If I'd have been shown this bloody thing, you know, a couple of years ago, my transition would have been a lot faster of comprehending perspective and everything, because the day you see Shark Boat it's another myth destroyer. I know it's a comical image, but to actually comprehend the optics and the only way that can behave is a huge. I know people see a talking boat, but that's immense in terms of the way that can resolve optically from that distance. And there is a point that us guys kind of say that shit. There is a point to it. You could see it optically from that distance. You know what I mean? It's so pontificating and nonsense. That there is so many newbies, as my kids call people, that come on. What's that bloody computer guy? I've forgotten the name of it now. Well, yeah. There is so many newbies that actually there is coming a point where the level of detail that Nathan's show discusses, the level that Globebusters discuss, we are breaking through boundaries, and actually we need to also start doing something other than 200 proofs to start people off. That us main guys, the main channels, and I include Sun and Moon and people. Actually, Sun and Moon, happy birthday! Apparently, it's their 1 year anniversary today. So
cool!
Shout out!
Big shout to Karen and everybody over there at Sun and Moon Group.
Yeah, but and maybe as you alluded to, Anthony, you know, as I talk through other channels, Dell's, as we say in the UK, Martin, that we do start, as I kind of felt it at the conference, that we do start to come together more as a proper community, as opposed to people, I don't know, disparate people preaching the same doctrine, for one of a very bad
Let's
phrase.
be honest, Flat Earth is fragmented, right? Primarily because of one particular guy and getting dumped. Now, I'm not going to say who, because we all know who it is, and I don't want to mention his name because I don't want to add anything to it. But essentially, that one person seemed to be able to divide Flat Earth in such a way that literally it became one camp was this view and the other camp was the opposing view, and you had to be one or the other, and you had to pick. What a load of nonsense.
No, you see, there's something from the conference, mate. I know but you know, from meeting the people that came to the conference, that has to be statistically a good mix of the Flat Earth community. And the feeling I got was the YouTube world we live in is a small percentage of that Flat Earth community. So all of this pathetic infighting that we see, the pathetic ad hominems, the insults against decent human beings for no reason, is in our little YouTube world. Actually, outside of this, and before YouTube discovered Flat Earth, as some Sean Connors explained, who's been a Flat Earther since the early 90s, you know, this isn't a YouTube phenomenon. This is reality. And YouTube's catching up with reality, and the petty infighting needs to be denounced as stuff and removed from views. Don't give it a thumbs down even. Just the second you realise it is what it is, turn it off, you know, and focus on what we're all here for. Oh, I'm getting preachy again, sorry.
Well, I mean, what are we all here for? Are we here to discover the truth and then leave? Or are we here to discover the truth and then stick around and propagate? Or are we here to just, I don't know, just spend time socialising? Because it is extremely sociable, isn't it? Let's be honest. We all make new friends, and as divided as it may be, I mean, we've all got new friends that we didn't previously know, that you can ring up and say, hey, I've got a problem here, can you help? And they will help. Might not be able to proactively help, but they can certainly listen. And there are people that you can make friends with, and that social element, it works on both sides, because the ballers have got that social circle that they all move in as well. All right, it's a little bit more sadistic on their side, but I mean, look, you saw how many people went to that Flat Earth conference for the first showing in like the first UK Flat Earth conference. I think it went absolutely fantastic, and I don't know whether he made money or lost money or broke even or whatever.
Lost,
but he lost.
Yeah, about 4 to 6 grand last I heard, but. And again, shout out to Gary, because what he brought the community, and it cost him 4 grand.
Well, I mean, it cost him 4 grand, but let's be honest. I mean, he got again, one particular guy was putting all the bad negative press about how he was making money and capitalising, and in the end, it turned out that he made a loss. Then that kind of puts the guy that was making all the division into a pigeonhole, where it's like his views are not always true, his views are not always accurate, and the reality was, I mean, Adam, it was fantastic, wasn't it?
It was, honestly. I mean, you know, I'm a bit of a kid at heart, so I really enjoyed it and just engaged in the event. It wasn't like the first thing. It was like going to Disneyland for flat earthers for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But we were all there.
Yeah, but I met Anthony Riley, right? First off, I'm meeting Anthony Riley, yeah. Then I'm meeting Nathan Oakley, yeah, and then I'm meeting Rob Durham. I'm meeting it was
Dave Murphy.
I'm fucking around, but what I mean by that is there was a dawning of reality that, as I sit here now in my little man cave, and we keyboard warrior stuff, and we have the best positive intentions. It was fantastic to see the number of people that got out of their keyboard and turned up to meet other human beings, and for a first event, like I mentioned the demographics when Gary was on, but the turnout in the UK compared to the population and the turnout in America was 300%, mate. Now, I'm not saying that's because Brits know it's more flat than Americans, but what it does show is over the time that actually the engagement as a percentage of the population has increased 300%.
Yeah.
You know, and we then see that very strange statistical anomaly with regards to the This Morning program. I don't know where it is now, Josh. Have you checked it recently? But it was at 18% out of 35,000 people. Now, it's an impossibility. I managed to blag my way and get 2 votes through different logins. Do you know what I mean? But it's an impossibility for the 100 people that are in the UK that are flat earthers, or the 300 people that were at the conference, to achieve those results. And so whatever YouTube thinks, that the community is bigger. Facebook is not something I engage in. The amount of Facebookers that don't do YouTube was outstanding. Do you know what I mean? We're there, and we've just got to keep ploughing, and that's why I relate to maybe there's a...
With regards to that Good Morning thing with Phil Schofield, have you noticed that the ballers denounced that that poll, because they say, all the flat earthers got behind that poll? That doesn't denounce it though. That supports it and adds credibility to it.
That's the point, mate. If all the flat earthers got behind it, right, which in itself is a statistical impossibility, but let's say a good percentage of the flat earthers got behind it, then out of those 35,000 people, 20% of them were flat earthers. Well, that's 20-fold the numbers that the mainstream press would suggest are flat earthers. So I'm happy to accept this. We all know the quote on statistics. You know, it's bullshit. You can use stats for anything. Yeah. That was my specialty, mate. Stats. It's then when we was talking about pure maths and mechanics and all those sorts of things, I did stats. That's mine and pukey pure maths. But stats is just nonsense. You can make it do whatever you want. You know what I mean? You've just got to word the phrase before you give the statistic correctly, and you can say whatever you want in terms of the number. It's kind of political bullshit, isn't it?
Yep.
So I've gone off on one again. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Josh has actually fallen asleep.
Oh no, you can be sure I'm here. I'm wide awake.
And I'm right here with you as well, sir.
Well, I will stop rambling then and hand it over to you two guys, because we've kind of strayed off, for me, the main topic.
The main topic now is basically that I'm seeing with Nathan that Nathan's getting. I mean, I saw a really good line today, and it was basically, I don't know, I can't remember who said it. I can't remember whether it was Ball or Flat that said it, but the line was, Riley and Nathan are hated because they're right on target, and I was like, yeah, I'll go with that. I mean, yeah, people don't like me and they don't like Nathan because Nathan's an arse or not very polite or whatever, and I'm just an equal arse or not very polite or whatever. But they're not liking us at the moment because they're getting battered, and it's got to the point now where we don't even need to worry about battering them anymore. We can just start laughing, and when we're getting to the ridicule stage, I mean, I don't know how far away is it before we get to the tipping point where so many people start basically realising.
That was noticeable today, Anthony, Tony, sorry. That was really noticeable today. If you listen, like I say, I've got the last 20 minutes of the second show of Nathan's today, but literally for the last good percentage of that second show, there's ballers talking, and the tables have turned. Whereas if you were a flat earther talking before and all you got as a retort was people laughing because in their paradigm, you know, it was so well known that that's just such silliness. You silly boy, it's flat, don't be silly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now, but if you listen to, like I say, the tail end of today's show, you can hear the ballers talking, and you guys, not in the same tone, but you guys aren't even bothering to defend a position anymore. You're just giggling at what's being said, and that's noticeable.
And what's also noticeable is PMARS. PMARS is somebody that he wants to be liked by everybody, and he rarely adds anything really good.
Yeah.
A lot of it's rhetorical. Or
Mate,
dogmatic.
genuinely, I was thinking on what I said earlier, and I think, genuinely, let's not talk about PMARS, because if I'm being honest, mate, he's not a well lad, is he? So, well, maybe let's not discuss him.
If you look at his demeanour today, and yesterday,
Tony,
he was just.
Maybe let's not discuss him, because, like, mate, mental illness isn't maybe something that we should contribute to.
I don't think it is mental illness. I think that's his tactic to try and. He's trying to add ridicule where really we're not trying. He was wrongly applying ridicule against us. What he should have been doing was defending his position or his nonsense, and he's just got it wrong. His tactic was wrong and is wrong. But PMARS is not here for the truth. PMARS claims that he's whatever he claims he is, but he's a troll. He must be getting paid, because why would he keep coming back and making himself a fool? But ultimately, like, he's not the only one. There are lots of them that won't come in. Scott Veach will not come in. He got rasted. He won't come back.
We was on Thursday, weren't we? It's rare I get to like try and. I always catch up with Nathan's show, hence why I'm more of a listener, and probably the sad analytics I give you on it. But I got in on Thursday, and it was very interesting how the ballers came and went. Rumpus that's not a challenge. But I don't understand. I was saying to Rumpus on Thursday, he was patronising you guys with regards to you, as he always says to you, Tony, you know, you can't understand this, blah, 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 blah. So I did ask him, can I understand it, please, Rumpus? And he shortly disappeared after that, and I think that was indicative of the position they actually do. What they try to do is present a I know more than you position, and therefore please subjugate. It's a bit like a copper, isn't it? Do you understand? Yes, I stand under you. The second you do say I understand, and it's that position of power that they can then preach their nonsense to you, and it's noticeable that that's waned, mate. They've stopped, they've lost it, and I'll come back to, you know, you guys take shit. You take a lot of shit for the way you do that show, but there isn't another way of dealing with these people. It's quite clear the way they behave, and I think kudos to Nathan for putting the show on, you for having the kind of ability to stick to the legal argument and take so much abuse, mate. I mean, we take a small amount of abuse on here and people are rejected, as you can do you know what I mean? Or we don't, it just doesn't happen here, but the level of shit you guys take is just, for me, it's abhorrent. But like I say, for the listener, it demonstrates the opposite side of the argument, and it's very hard to find a flat earther that is equivalent in their bad manners, lack of argument, and just basic poor human standards is the way they seem to be, you know. And I mean that in the terms of I'm doing a Rumpus, but in the way, like I was trying to talk to Rumpus, it just wasn't having it, and all you can do is just overtalk him until either he gives up or you give up, and
that is why he gets kicked so many times, though.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is with the Rumpus, when you describe that, he says things like, "Well, you don't understand this," or "You don't understand that," or whatever, and he does that against me or Nathan, or me and Nathan frequently, because he has to get that disclaimer in at the start that we're thick, right? He has to do that, and he often says to me things like, "Well, I know you don't understand the maths, and you don't understand how basic algebra works," or whatever, and he will do that frequently. Yet this perspective point that we're talking about, where the hidden value gets, the hidden value gets applied after you've reduced it, that's essentially a mathematical construct that has been spotted, and we've all spotted it. Most of us have spotted it, but because we're not united, we haven't beaten the drum as a group, which is what I'm trying to do now, just make people aware that this is an issue, because it gets lost in videos and forgotten about, and it loses its bite. But obviously, when Rumpus is attacking me, saying things like, "Well, you don't understand Pythagoras," or whatever, it turns out that the irony is that the thing that's been spotted by me only in the last couple of days is that strong and powerful. And when I gave it to Nathan, I said, "I think we should push this." He spent 24 hours thinking about it, and in the end, he agreed. It's a mathematical construct that I've spotted that doesn't jive real well. And that's the one thing that they all pick on me on, and I let it go. I just don't even respond to it, because they do it just to try and discredit you before you even spoke. So
mate, you've got, for me, there's a wave that's in you. I talk about the YouTube world because it is the YouTube world, but there is a wave where this point is being raised. And when you rang me, there's a reason I knew instantly which video to send you to that would define it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a point that's in waiting. But again, it comes back to blowing smoke up your guys' ass. You guys have set the debate up and have took the deconstruction of all of their arguments and our arguments apart to such a level that it's all there. They've made their statements, and now it's a bit like what you'd probably do if you could have pre-constructed this, mate, yeah, as a legal court case. you'd have done all you did. You'd have set them up for the Isle of Man case, made them present absolutely everything, dealt with that, and then gone, well, by the way, guys, perspective. Yeah. So every legal argument that they've presented as their scientific evidence, as Nathan described mathematically tonight, why it's invalid, has just been taken apart. They have all of those shows. They have nothing mathematically anymore. Yeah. I think there's a debate as to how much you've got, but the reality is that we know what will happen when we redo all the maths just based on that, as it's demonstrated by Taboo. So
yeah, it's difficult to put into words the amount of support that I've given Nathan and Ranty's given Nathan, because it really is true to say that without our support, Nathan wouldn't be able to do what he's doing. And I don't mean that in terms of super chats or just holding it together. It's like keeping the trolls out, stopping them from sniping everybody. It's having the conversation whilst people are joining, trying to wreck the show, and remembering what you were meant to be saying. It's that kind of thing that we support him with. I think you guys and what you've done there. As Guys Everywhere, we met first. Okay, and then we entered Flat Earth publicly. You guys all entered Flat Earth publicly, like the majority of us, and you didn't even get on. I think there's all sorts of history there if you want to go back a couple of years or more on YouTube. I'm sure, do you know what I mean? And people can enjoy the pettiness of that and draw whatever nonsensical inference they want. But what's interesting is that actually you met over a cause. And even if you'd had a bit of a ruck, like I've told people in the pub I get on with now to piss off in the past, you had a bit of a ruck, but actually the cause was bigger. And I think you're a great exemplifier for Flat Earth of actually, these are very different people, but look at what a bit of combined effort and putting ego to one side can achieve. Hey, listen, me and Nathan don't agree on everything.
I know you don't.
It's not accurate to say that me and Nathan are best of buddies. We're not enemies. We are friends. We socialise. We are friends. However, we don't agree with each other for the sake of agreeing. If Nathan thinks that I'm wrong, he'll say. If I think he's wrong, I'll say. But what we don't do is we don't start doing hate videos because one of us disagrees. We just accept that the other person's got a difference of opinion, and then we look on what evidence we would need to prove one is right over the other. And it might be that I'm right or wrong. He might be right or wrong. But we often try and find a conclusion, and if we can't get a conclusion on a point, we'll at least get evidence that supports some answer, so that we can present it and then see what comes back. But we don't always agree. And it's that makes it important, because you have to be able to disagree with people. I mean, look at Arwin. I mean, I like Arwin, but he's a contrarian against me all the time. He disagrees against pretty much everything that I say. I just ignore it because it's not constructive when he's disagreeing, because he doesn't disagree properly. Whereas Nathan and I, we will disagree properly, and we will move forward to try and find what the answer is. Even if we get the answer wrong, at least we'll have some basis for what the answer or the conclusion of that point should be. But I think that's really, really healthy, because it does give credible critique to what we're doing behind the scenes, if somebody brings up a good point or not, if we bring up a good point or not. And there are times when, for example, just for example, Ranty may say, I think such and such a thing, and then Nathan will think about it and I'll say that's wrong. Nathan will ask why, and it's kind of like peer reviewing our own work. And yeah, sure, we may get things wrong at times. We may exaggerate something inadvertently, and equally we may underestimate the importance of something. But ultimately, we all work together. We do fall out with each other. We do rage quit on each other at times. But it's because we're all trying to find out what the hell is going on and why there ain't no curve. Because we all realise that we've all got pure intentions, it's that makes it work. And it unites us because we want the truth. We don't know what the truth is. We think it might be this, it might be that, it could be the other. Arwen's points, some of his points are credible. Some of them I agree with. Most of them I don't. But there is one or two things that he says that I think to myself, quite possibly the case that may actually work. But we have this bubble where we all want to know what's going on. And like I said before, there is no science for a flat Earth. There is no budget for a flat Earth. The most we've got to P900 and a compass. What do you expect? But we're all united in that way because we're trying to find out what is the truth. And it's that really flat Earth generally in the bigger picture. We all really need to take each other under each other's wings, and we shouldn't have this fragmented, well, I like him but I don't like her kind of thing, because it is damaging. But on the other hand, I can understand why some parts of it needs to be fragmented. We do need to have a ring fence where the bad people in flat Earth get put, but we do need a little bit more unity, and we need to unite a little bit better than we currently do, because when we are together, we are strong. When we're divided, we're not.
I think let's unite. Let's not worry about fragmenting. Let's get together first before we break it up. But I'll tell you, you said something there about rage quitting, right? And listening to Nathan's show, something I said to my kids, because I've never heard it before. I heard it on Nathan's show, and they were going, "Yeah, rage quitting, yeah." You're the softest rage quitter. You're the most polite rage quitter I've ever heard, Tony. Yeah, you did it the other day with, I don't know, was it P Mars or somebody, and you just
it was Dawn. Trevor.
Yeah, Dawn. I'm afraid, Dawn, that because you're such a complete and utter retard, I'm going to have to leave. It was not so much rage, but a rational quit. Well, is how I would describe it. It was, there is no point even talking to you, guy. So I'm leaving. Yeah. It wasn't rage, mate. Like I said, it was more rational.
It was protest, wasn't it? It was, I'm not able to speak to you because you just cannot accept whatever the point was, and therefore my value of being here is diminished because you will not see that you are wrong.
Actually, so Dawn's a good one, isn't he? In terms of the point he made, I think it was you that jumped on it. And it's a very good exemplar of ball response that we've got at the moment, or sort of ball thinking. With regard, go ahead.
If Rumpus says it's right, then I'll accept it.
Yeah, or let me get a baller that accepts it, and then I'll believe it.
Yeah, that is what he said, and I was like, "What? That's basically the dictionary definition of confirmation bias."
So get me a priest to confirm it's right.
Yeah. That's why Rumpus will be. I mean, Rumpus is probably one of the more honest of the bad ones, because he will disagree with all the ballers. I've seen it twice. He's disagreed with Sly. He's disagreed with one other guy. However, he still pushes the lie. And I struggle having any conversation with the Rumpus because I just find him intolerable. He doesn't let you speak. He doesn't let you respond. He will make 5 points of nonsense, and you just don't have enough time to respond to all 5 points that are nonsense. You just have to dismiss them, and then it looks like you're running away. But it's because of his tactic, which is bamboozle and bullshit, and that is what he does, and it drives me mad. And often, if there's a good panel in, or there's people that are actually having a conversation and he joins, I'll just kick him straight away, because literally, it's like, you know, when somebody walks in the room and no one likes that particular person, and then everybody stops talking. It's kind of like that. Rumpus comes in, and the whole atmosphere changes. It becomes like fog, and it's like, oh no.
I've got a question on that, Tony. Right? And I probably know the answer myself, but you do that sometimes, probably to the pleasure of the audience, and sometimes to the frustration of the audience. And I would suggest that it may be an accusation that's thrown against you that Nathan colludes in such a thing. Would you describe what he says off air to you, if you're prepared, whether that's something that he's happy about, or because for me, in all of this, Nathan appears to be a videographer. I've never seen him kick anybody. I've never seen him support. In fact, I actively hear him say, no, everybody's welcome. But you engage on the flatties side, in a little bit of the more naughty behaviour that we attribute to the ballers. And could you address that? Because
if somebody comes in with reasonable response, reasonable argument, reasonable debate, they will stay in the show. They will not get kicked. However, if they come in the show and are literally either gaslighting, straw man arguments, I mean, if they're there trolling and it's obvious that they're trolling, then it'll be tolerated for a period until it starts. Because what normally happens is it starts becoming rude, aggressive, violent, sweary, temper tantrums, and all that's doing is discouraging other people that could join that now won't join because they're scared, because tempers have risen. And eventually I lose my temper with it, and I just think, this isn't going anywhere. You're right, you're going to go. And I will kick them if it becomes deconstructive. But if, for example, Brenda, even though I've got Brenda blocked, if she joins and she's got valid, fair comments and disagreements with us or whatever, and she actually has the disagreement and the debate, then she'll stay. But if she comes and joins and then tries sniping people, then she'll not go.
Right, that's not what I'm asking. Let me put it more simply. Okay, you're a twat filter, right? And is Nathan happy that you filter twats, or is he just ambivalent to the fact that you filter twats? Is there any collusion? And I only ask this not for shit stirring, but really is to, like I say, validate Nathan's position as a videographer from what he's doing. Because like I say,
is there any collusion with me and Nathan with regards to who we kick or not kick?
Is he happy that you're kicking people, or is it just your actions genuinely? Because if I was as a listener, can you answer that question?
I'm Renegade, and I'll make if I think that for the benefit of the show generally, if that person needs to go, then that person will go, and I'll say, I'm sorry, Nathan, I've had enough of him. He's had to go. And I've done it twice, maybe 3 times. Now, most of the time, the people that we're kicking are actually trolls that are they're deliberately to cause trouble. Now, I won't kick somebody if they're coming to the table with a fight or an argument or evidence to the contrary of our views or beliefs, because we learn or they learn. It is the debate show. But if it becomes a shit show, it'll only be a shit show for so long before it becomes futile, and then that person will go because they're not actually adding. So it depends on whether it's credible arguments or whether it's just trolling. And if it's too much trolley for too long, I mean, there are some people out there that come across as genuine, but then you realise that they are actually stupid or trolling. Now, if they're stupid, they'll be kept in, but if they're trolling, they won't. But to answer your question, there's no collusion between me and Nathan. I'll make my own decisions on it, but he trusts my judgment. But he understands that he can't stop it, and he doesn't really want us to do it all the time because he does want the debate, and we don't do it all the time. But he can't actually stop it. But it's a mutual respect thing. I won't kick everybody, and I won't kick if we're losing. If somebody brings up a good point, they'll stay in because we want the debate. It is a debate. We want to learn. If we've got something wrong, we want to know so that we can go away, we can find a resolution, and come back next day with the evidence that either shows that we were wrong or shows that we were right. But we'll get conclusion on the point. So, no, there is no conclusion. I generally act as a renegade, as does Arwin, as does Ranty. We make our own discerned decision. And Nathan really can't stop it, but he trusts that we don't abuse the position. And I don't think any of us do. Basically, if you're an idiot, you are going to get kicked. If you disagree, you won't get kicked. If you've got evidence, you'll be kept in. So it all depends on how you come across as a person, really.
All right, I'll stop being aggressive there, because in defence, obviously, what you also spend a lot of time doing is keeping out the people that come in and just kick everybody, ball, flat, whatever, to completely take the conversation. I mean, there's the constant, it's Wednesday, my dudes. I think that's what they're doing. I think it could be porn, but I do think it's Wednesday, my dudes. Do you know what I mean? So And that's the only reason I bring it up, mate, because there's a clear imbalance in the way people behave. But I have heard you decried for your behaviour, and I just wanted that just kind of balancing with the constant vigilance that you guys are in, included, and I think a few of the other regulars, and again Nathan not included, that do try to defend the, for want of a better phrase, the freedom of speech. Because
I spend 2 hours hovering over the eject button because I know that certain people will join, and I know that they'll just deliberately do it just to try. They think it annoys us, but we actually laugh at it, and because it tells you more about them than it does about us. But for that 2 hour period, I'm concentrating more, not on the argument or the debate. I'm just trying to manage it in the background so that there is a debate. Now, Nathan's obsessed with keeping the link public because Tim Osmond he used to describe things as a circle jerk or an echo chamber, and Nathan didn't want to be described as either. So he's like, right, let's make this happen. And I kind of agree with him. I think it's hard work, and I think that they do disrupt it as often as they humanly can. But ultimately, I think that the show is actually quite interesting because it is open to anybody, and anybody can join. If you think that we live on a ball, bring it on. Let's see what you've got. If you think it's flat, bring it on. Let's see what you've got. But ultimately, that open link is open for everybody, bar 1 or 2 people. And to be honest, he's brilliant, Nathan, for being able for creating interest in something that we all kind of know, but it is actually a show, and all these new people joining, you know, they wouldn't be able to join anywhere if this didn't exist. There wouldn't be anywhere to go. It's like the playground in school. There is no playground in flat Earth. There's only Nathan that does it, and that's unique. And I think it's great, mate. I think it's somewhere where we can all go, we can all communicate, we can all group up together, and we can just generally laugh, have a good time. It's great.
While we're on that, traditionally there's been a kind of core panel, for want of a, I think that's the word you use. It's been noticeable recently that not only the shout outs can people defend the realm, but actually the variety of people from around the globe. There's been a number of noticeable accents appear, which to me states that the significance of the show globally, whatever the views state. Do you know what I mean? That actually there are people from different parts of the plane coming in, joining in, and really engaging, and demonstrating that whatever country they come from, there's a flat Earth contingent there. And that's the kind of final thing I just wanted to end on. That I think actually the show is developing even more. It's a shame Nathan's not here, because I did want to ask him a few bits in terms of the videography and kind of other things that he thinks, the longevity of the show that maybe starting to demonstrate statistically. But I just want to thank you guys, because it's one of the main things that I really enjoy. And there's one final bit, and you kind of alluded to it there, Anthony, in terms of it being an open forum. And back in the day, we had the pleasure of in Google Hangouts having Mr. Osman come in and tell us what retards we were. I know he's got girly ankles, but he had other issues with us which we're not sure about whether he was conducting or not, but I'll leave people to go back to the archives to figure that one out. But the point I raised there, and it's something I want to mention really with Walt and Josh as well, from looking at the show, the way Tim Osman has turned from troll, ball earth defender to recently in his appearances on Nathan's show, flat earth evidence provider. I just wonder what the American guys really, Andy, sorry mate, but in terms of what they think from Nathan's show, somebody as prominent as Tim Osman, as what's happened to him in terms of his appearances on Nathan's show.
I don't know that I've caught that many of his appearances over there.
Oh, he keeps producing flat earth proofs, mate, and calling it curve. He had he did something over the Salt Lakes, and he was at one side of it, looking over to the other side of it, and he was showing how the bottom of the buildings was all chopped off. And when we looked at the footage, there was like a raised bank of sand or salt in the foreground, and there was this like hyena or a wolf or something walking across it. And I don't know what animal it actually was, but we gave it the hyena, because there's a hyena pack that goes around this chat. But we called it a hyena. It might not have been a hyena, but we called it one. And basically what we were saying to Tim is like, Tim, the obstruction there is perspective. There is a patch of land that hyena is walking on in the foreground that is bigger than the thing in the background. Can you not see that? And his words were, yeah, okay, it's flat, but what about the obstruction? And there was a little bit of obstruction at the horizon, but it wasn't the curvature of the Earth. It was the bit that the hyena was walking on. Basically, we've just rammed it down his throat. And Tim was just trying to basically say, look at the obstruction, look at the obstruction. And we're saying, it's flat, it's flat. So he's saying one thing, we're saying the other thing. But ultimately, Tim's providing flat Earth proofs and he doesn't realise it. And he's trying to pass it off as ball Earth proofs by saying the word obstruction and curvature and hoping that those key words link with people or resonate with people. And we're sat there laughing at him and saying, thanks for the flat Earth proof, moron. And he's killing their own arguments by going and getting the evidence. So if you're listening, Tim, go and get some more and bring it back, because you're doing a good job for us. So go and find some more, dude.
What a lovely day!
Go, Tim.
Yeah, Dim Osman.
They do their live streams. Are they using sound bites from your show to play on their live stream? That's almost what it sounds like to me. It sounds like it's just a production setup. I'll come on, I'll say this. It's really not going to make a whole lot of sense. You'll probably chew it up and spit it out real quick. But I will be able to come back, cut it out later, and be able to talk about my presentations that I've made. And then I'll stop playing what I said. And then we'll badmouth everybody else actually having to play that part. We won't play where we got chewed up and spit out. We'll cherry pick these little sound bites.
Yep.
Be able to say this is where I said them. It's the only thing I can think. It's the only thing.
I think they're getting to the point where they're running out of steam now, and they realise it, because now they're not protesting anymore. They're just not coming in because they know what's going to happen if they do, and it's glorious. And I'm dead proud that Nathan's benefited out of it. I'm proud to be part of it. And I enjoy it. It is recreational as well as social. It's just brilliant. Kudos to Nathan for thinking about it. But that being said, though, without support from fellow flat earthers, he wouldn't be able to do it. And that includes people just joining as placeholders, even if they don't speak, just to stop them from these trolls joining and going, ah.
Yep, they're the grunts. They're the real grunts of the flat Earth debates, because they're just out there as bullet stoppers. They're just there to catch flack and take heat and to slow down at least these ballers.
Yep, that's it. It's all good fun.
Seems like Walter may be having trouble. He's bouncing in and out.
Yeah, what's going on, Josh? You're sounding a bit woolly.
Woolly? Well, I may have turned down a little bit. I can go back high.
Sorry, I keep having trouble dropping out. I don't know what's going on here.
And what's going on with the background noise? It sounds like someone's got a truck in the background.
Is it my fans? Am I blowing too much? Let me mute.
Oh yeah, it might be your fans, yeah.
Meanwhile, Walt's in a hot box because his fans are too loud to even have on. Meanwhile, I'm down in a nice, cool, cozy basement. Ah, the joys of living in the Mississippi River Valley.
So
we were talking this morning about controlling the Mississippi River, right? And that's sort of the way it was coming down. And I got to thinking today, sort of the way flat Earth is, right? The Mississippi River, it's a force of nature, right? There's no stopping it, but I guess maybe with the hubris of man, you can hope to be able to control sort of the sedimentary runoff into how it's destroying and reshaping the land there in the Mississippi River Delta. But when you think of the way flat Earth sort of kind of came on in the last 3 years, I think it's got to be the same way. It's one of those forces of nature that they knew was inevitable. So the best they could hope for was to sort of control the runoff and how it was disseminated and how it shaped the landscape. So it just got me thinking sort of the correlation between that, the hubris of man versus the sheer evilness of those that are trying to hide the fact that we don't live on a spinny space bollock testicle.
Yeah, the testicle.
Mississippi River's one of those things, early paradigm breakers that your Kent Honvid gives to you, isn't it? As I remember, because the particulate deposition rate of the Mississippi River means that the whole basin would have been clogged up if it's more than sort of 8,000-10,000 years old, as far as I remember. It's an old school one, Josh. It just kind of jogged my memory, but
I apologize. I keep getting in and out of this call, and something's happening here with my internet.
Are you back?
I am back, but I heard the discussion about the noise, and I've been hearing that noise that sounds like a truck in the background. It is definitely not my fans here, because I'm pretty much stay muted unless I'm speaking.
No, it's Adam, or it was Adam.
Ah, we figured it out. Okay, cool.
It's always my fault, isn't it?
Not always.
Welcome to the life of a producer.
You're going to catch it, even if it's not you.
You got a video problem? It's your fault.
It was always my fault before I even started that.
Well, funny how that works, isn't it? What is that?
Funny. Well, I was going to suggest, is it time for Gravity? And then I looked at the time.
It was time for Gravity 90 minutes ago.
Yeah, we were gravity defiers today.
Have we defied gravity?
I say we maybe close with Gravity in the
next. Yeah, it's getting late now. It's 1:45.
Yeah, and it's been a long day for Walt.
Yeah, so I say we close out the last 15 minutes and we will exit on some Gravity. I think I might even have... Nope, I don't have the full version on my... I don't have it audio.
I've got it here. It's easier for me to do.
You got it? All right. The Vagabond version?
Oh, yeah. It's only one, baby.
So we
I mirrored that because he said that he may be going away for a bit due to trying to keep things happy at home, and we all know happy wife, happy life, so we will miss you if that is the case. But I mirrored it on my channel, and Paul on the plane went over there. He's like, oh man, I'm doing my video over now. I'm like, what? I know both of y'all's videos were so much better than mine, so there's going to probably be 2 new versions of Gravity soon.
And it is June 1st, which it's a big milestone in the countdown to 618, which is the release date for Norb's new album. So I'm getting anxious.
No doubt. And I have a little extra time with the ability to make some extra noise today, so I may get straight off of the show and go crank up my guitar and see if I can't chop something up.
Ooh, that'd be good. What we need is some Walter playing the axe, rocking out.
Oh no, that won't be here. But when you said Norb, that just I'm always musically inspired. So There might be a little Walt Norb remix in the future. You never know what might happen.
That would be really good. Let's see what else we got going on. Well, just for all those people that have had a hard time finding things like Shark Boat or all the other great camera work that Ranty's done by trying to search for Ranty ! I believe he has renamed his channel to Ranty Flat Earth. So should be much easier to find in the search bar. Just search for Ranty Flat Earth. See, that works out well.
Apologies there then. I put it into the YouTubers exclamation mark, so sorry Ranty, but it serves you right for not turning up.
Yeah. There's the Sleeping Warrior channel. Can't forget that.
And obviously Nathan Oakley 1980.
And obviously Nathan Oakley 1980.
Do you know what's another good testament is that although it's Nathan's show and it was his idea kind of thing, none of us get paid anything to do it. I know Nathan gets a little bit out of the super chats and whatnot, but I mean he certainly doesn't earn enough for it to be really worth his while.
I like that one today, Tony. The Alan B coming in with his distraction and going, oh, hit the super chat, get Nathan some new brown shoes or whatever it was. And literally somebody in the community just went, ask and you shall receive $10 on the super chat. It was just brilliant. It was like, screw you, ballers.
It was great when somebody in chat was saying something like, oh, Nathan's e-begging and this, and Nathan's doing that about money and all this. And basically there was about 8 super chats coming in. I think he earned $100 in super chats in about 8 minutes because people were resentful about the fact that someone was complaining that he hadn't even asked for money. But he was complaining about money and like $100 in like about 8 minutes, and it was literally just money was coming in, and this guy was all like, I'm not challenging him, Nathan, again on that. Bloody hell, he earned $100 there because of him. It was brilliant.
That was funny. Not enough to retire on though, is it? For the ballers.
No, that's what I was saying. None of us get paid anything for doing it. Nathan does get the little bit that is made. But we all donate our time for free. We donate our efforts, and it's all in the name of Flat Earth. Generally speaking, we all want to know what's going on, and it's just something that we can. I don't know. We can all be proud of, really, and I just think it's great. I just love the interaction and the social side to it. And just make sure everybody does come in and just, even if you just join the panel to play Soul, it's still worth sitting there just saying nothing if needs be because somebody else is just being But also, that's the best that they've got as well as at the trolling.
It's Wednesday, my dude.
Yeah.
Week. That's.
Oh well.
It's good you brought them to that, mate. That's the reality of it, isn't it? You know, the level of the debate and the resilience to not just cave in because you're being told you don't understand it from you guys has got us to this point. I think there's a lot to be said for, like I say, the shit you've taken and actually, you know, the homework you've done as well. Because I sat chatting with Nathan the other night and he's freaking brilliant at doing the scientific method. Hypothesis, variables, non-dependent. He's absolutely brilliant at identifying it rapidly. And I think that's what scares them the most, that actually, for all of their statements of, as I said earlier, you're not a scientist. A scientist is anybody that applies the scientific method to what they're analysing. And therefore, you're scientists if you keep doing that, whoever it is.
Yeah. The other good thing is, well, like, we all excel in different areas, but we're all weak in different areas too. So I know where not to go in the debate. I know where I'm comfortable, and I know where not to go. But it's interesting how the ballers expect you to be like some physicist expert because you've declared that the Earth's not a ball. You're expected to know every aspect of every part of it.
Right. suddenly you have to make a map and write a paper and
yeah. But I know when to shut up. Now, when I shut up, Arwin normally starts talking, and I just leave him to it because he's going to get the attack. But I know when not to speak. So if I'm out of my comfort zone, I'll just shut up. The power of silence is more valuable than the waffle of nonsense. And I'm not sure that one or two others on the panel have learnt that yet, but I'm sure they will in time. Shout out to Arwin.
That comes with age.
Have you noticed that Arwin never agrees with me on anything?
That's harsh. He does. He does.
He doesn't. He does. Honestly, he doesn't. I had to say to him about this this perspective thing. I said before we went on the show, I'd already said to Nathan, I said let's push this, and Nathan, he'd had 24 hours on it, and he said okay, let's push it. But I had to prime Arwin what we were going to do, why we were going to do it. And if he disagrees, let's disagree before the show goes live, and we'll sort it out before the show goes live. I didn't want him disagreeing with me on the show because it would totally destroy the point that is really, really strong just because Arwin doesn't agree with it. So we had to go through, we had to spoon feed it him, and he was a bit but I said at the end, I said, Arwin, I said, unless we are wrong, I do not want you to disagree with us just because you think we might be wrong. I said, unless we are actually wrong. And it was I was sweating. I'll be honest, I was sweating.
Is that before or after you phoned me?
It was after I phoned you, but 24 hours after Nathan had been thinking about whether we should start pummeling this or not. Because obviously he sleeps on stuff, he thinks about stuff, and he said, yeah, all right, then let's do it. So we did, and I just needed to make sure that Arwin wasn't going to just disagree with me for the sake of it, because he is a contrarian, he'll just disagree with me over everything, it seems. But on that one topic, I just didn't want him to, because the point would be lost straight away.
Yeah. Well, as you say there, mate, I hope Nathan's intuition is correct. I hope Iron Realms is. And I hope the rest of the community out there can jump on the same sentiment and understanding that's been demonstrated, because it is a real big globe debunker, and it's not Nathan pulling out, it's not you pulling out, it's not us stating it, it's not taboo, it's not ranty at episode 170, whatever it was. You know, it's stuff that we've all quietly felt, but not been necessarily able to articulate mathematically. But I think with all of our combined efforts, the taboos, you know what I mean, in terms of the excellent summary that his video provides to conceptualize it for people. I think that with all of our efforts, and certainly if the rest of the community can jump on the bandwagon, for want of a better phrase, then this is a big one. This is a big one.
Yeah, just for those that are not sure how big this is, the effect of it is that if you apply the hidden value to an object that is shrunk significantly in size, then that hidden value then takes up an awful lot more of the space that should have been just the curve. It takes up a lot more of it, and it instantly becomes incompatible with what they're claiming. But most of the time, the object that you're looking at will have already fallen behind the curve anyway, and there wouldn't actually be anything there at all. So that's how big it is. It's like it's no longer this little bit of obstruction on the horizon that we formerly called curvature. It looks like most of the time, it looks like the whole observation of what you're looking at would have fallen behind the curve of the Earth. Almost all occasions, not every single one, but literally it's that much of a ball changer, or that much of a game changer, that it literally changes the value of the hidden to be applied against. So, well, basically it's gone. That's how big it is. The value of the hidden changes that much relative to the size that you've now got. It's fallen behind the curve of the Earth. And that's the way it should be. If we live on a ball, it should start falling behind the curve of the Earth. And it's not, obviously, remember, it's nowhere near as big as what they tell us, because we can see x-axis curvature now measurable in a variety of ways according to Metabunk under the Advanced tab. So it's like, well, this is kind of telling us and supporting the idea that this ball's not nearly as big as what they tell us it is. It is observable. We should be able to measure this curve, this drop, this bulge. It ain't there. But that is the net effect. The net effect is most observations will actually disappear behind the curve of the Earth. Not just increase the amount of hidden, it increases it massively. So that's why it's important.
Absolutely. And it's time to, I think it's right. It's time we start beating this bandwagon and we can add it to our repertoire of sort of the foundational argument, right? And no spin, no curve, it's flat. And from here, it's, if you want to try to figure out exactly what it is they're saying it should be, if you're trying to figure out just exactly what it is they're showing, just break it out. You just gotta, what is it? Shrink it and drop it.
Shrink it and drop it.
Yeah, shrink it and drop it.
Yeah. Ballers ain't got no perspective.
So I just want to say, we only got a few minutes left before we try to sign off out of here. And last week's show got a comment just a couple days ago even. And they dropped a link to keithatwood.bandcamp.com. And that's all it was. I think it just said Flat Earth Music. So I just wanted to give a little teaser on some of this music real quick before we get out of here and play some Gravity, because I was really impressed. This turned out really good. So this first one, I'm just going to play little snippets. I'm not going to play the full thing, but it's called Spinning Blue Ball, and it's by Keith Atwood, Oliver Greenlaw, and Gabriella Caniglio. So it's just really well done, and I just wanted to give a little teaser to it.
Tell me I live on a spinning blue ball, off of which somehow I don't seem to fall. If I'm flying through space at incredible pace, why don't I have to hold on? I think it's a lie, I can tell you just why. The reasons are many and
which I really like, right? I like the nice. Not a big deal. Look, I'm not going to play the whole thing. We've already gone 3 hours. We want to keep it a semi-short show to make it more palatable for people.
So we can
I want to do that full version
across.
And the remix. You sent me that in the week. That remix I like even more.
We'll play the remix too, because the remix was really good. Because as much as I like a nice, cool, light acoustical jam, the remix, this is Spinning Blue Ball 2 by Keith Atwood and somebody named Yalapa Oliver.
Oh yeah.
Awfully quiet.
Well, they tell me I come from a pond full of scum, right here on a spinning blue ball. When spark from the sky made the scum come alive, somehow it managed to thrive. Then the scum grew fins and learned how to swim. It swam upon the shore. From one to the next, species progressed. From that day on evermore. And not far in the past, from some monkey's ashes, how we find us here. The furious stinks found no missing links. It's clear that none will appear. We're on a spinning blue ball. That's a lie they've been telling us all. Don't believe the things they say. Use your mind, find your own way, or the powers that be will show you what they want you to see.
I mean, how good is that? That's awesome. I dig it.
That's
so everybody over there to Keith Atwood over on Bandcamp, keithatwood.bandcamp.com. Show him some love. Maybe track him down somewhere else. Apparently that song was featured on Globebusters. I must have missed it. But I do like the acoustical version as well. I just wanted to get that out there to give Keith Atwood some love, because I was really digging on his tunes.
I enjoyed that too, Josh. It was wicked, mate.
And that's everything I got this week.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. I'm spent. Thank you so much.
Thank you thank you guys for having me again. It's always cool coming back in here, because it does feel like like a second home. So it's.
I'm so glad, man.
Anthony,
Thank you.
there's a few people we remind of the open invitation, but you're not. You're one of the few that doesn't need any reminding. I don't think, pal. You know, anytime, bro.
Yep.
Thank you so much, guys, and I shall no doubt see you tomorrow at some time where there'll be probably 0 ballers in, and because they've been battered so much recently.
Oh wait, did you see I made your symbol for the curvature, the obstruction formerly known as curvature. We'll get it up in a minute. I'll show it to you. Josh has a picture he made with it.
I thought I put it in the.
Oh, did you drop it in there? Sorry. Once I left this morning after our show, I had car emergencies all day. I was under the hood and burning up in the sun, so I missed all of that. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's. I love that phrase.
We notice a cycle, and when they're getting battered a lot, what tends to happen is we'll have 2 or 3 days of very little activity because they don't want to come on because they're a little bit butthurt. So I reckon tomorrow's show will be like a gentle, quiet one. There won't be any ballers. We'll be talking about ice creams again for a few hours. But it's just great. It's just great watching how the demographic of the ballers plays out, because some days are really good, some days are quiet, and I'm sure tomorrow's going to be a quiet one because we've had 2 great days where we just battered them, because they ain't going to be in tomorrow, I don't think.
Nice.
It's all good.
Nice. A day of rest. Well deserved.
Day of rest.
Well deserved.
Yeah, man. Right, I'm off, gents, because it's 1 a.m. It's time for me to Bobos.
Thank you, brother.
See you later, guys.
All right, man. Loves. Thank you.
God bless, mate. Take it easy.
See you to everybody in the chat.
And thanks everyone in chat. I gave up trying to even keep up. Once Ispy got in the house, it got pretty heated, and everybody was all over the place, and I just got lost. I'm so glad everybody was having a great day.
Chat. Whoa, on the chat, right? Candy's in there, right?
Yeah,
so I need Candy, right? I need a bit of help. I've got an OBS addiction, haven't I? Josh will testify to it. If I'm not doing a couple of windows a week, I start shaking. And I've come across a little backdrop similar to the ones I've been doing tonight there, and I saw it, honestly, and I thought I've got to make a screen for I Spy Nasalis. So I just wondered if there was a couple of pictures, maybe the one with the old jelly bean on the nose or whatever, that you could send me in a decent quality.
Here's something for you, Adam. Think Iron Man. Any way you can incorporate Iron Man is always a good bet.
Don't start me off. I'm just in mid.
This guy's all marveled up.
It's Marvels. We would discuss it.
Apparently, we have hurt Candy. We have never apparently had her on our show here. Now we've had her on TFR. I know without a doubt.
Get the F out. Are you sure?
That's what she's saying. Well, it's just like I thought we had Karen B on the first time she came on our show. I'm like, I couldn't believe that we had not. I mean, it's because we've all hung out and done chat and done calls that weren't necessarily show calls, and we just all know each other. So it seems like, yeah, you had to have been on the show at some point. But she says she hasn't. So we need to make that. We got to fix that soon.
Well, if that's the case, if we can, go on, sorry.
We'll see. We'll go back now and can let me watch every show to find her. No, I'm kidding.
If it is the case, guys, right, then Candy, send me those pictures, because, like I say, I'm doing a montage anyway. So let's have it for a reason.
We love you, Candy.
That's it. We need to set up a time. We'll maybe have to be a little bit later for Candy.
Indeed, Brian Stavely in chat just asked, does this show take live calls sometimes? We do indeed sometimes, when we don't have such amazing information and guests that are just putting that information across very well. So, but yeah, we definitely do have shows where we'll even invite people on out of the chat. So hang out.
Does the flat run?
This is not the
is it
week,
ran?
no, this is about to be over.
Wolf ready, aren't you, mate?
Excuse me.
But
It was the baking heat that I was out in all day. I mean, drained me. Just I feel like I've climbed mountains or something all day, or been swimming all day. My body is just drained from that heat because it was pushing. I don't even know what it was. I never had time to stop looking at the clock. I mean, at a temperature, so it was hot.
Well, next week I will have a second computer here that I can keep the flat line open on full time and just route it right to my mixer, so we won't have to worry about any of that junk. We'll just be able to do it.
Nice. Yeah, we'll find a way to iron that out too.
So are we ready to kill this show?
Oh, you got Gravity lined up?
I'm gravity up and given a couple of seconds, I'm ready to go.
Well, there's something else I wanted to say. Several things. I don't know what they are, so I'm not going to, but...
Well, let's not rush, Josh. Let's have a sip of wine. Have a think about it.
We're already at 3 hours and 6 minutes. Yeah. Well, not quite, considering we had a stutter step a little bit there.
We did have a little start. Stop.
It was great though. For those that honestly, genuinely, it was the best opening I've ever heard. So I don't care what anyone else heard. I'll remember that till I die. So well, thank you, Josh. Is all I can say. Genuinely, I was moved. Halfway through, there was a tear in my eye. It was that good an opening.
Well, if there's anything I would be happy to give you, it's a movement. So I'm glad you were moved.
It was certainly a movement.
1 second before we get out of here, everybody kind of just wore out from the day and left without really actually properly giving correct ways to find Nathan and the debate that Anthony was talking about there towards the end, because our new buddy Brian there in chat just asked what time tomorrow so that he could tune in and listen if he's not working. Sadly, the Iron Realm usually doesn't broadcast on Saturdays. That's usually the day we dedicate to our families. So the actual Nathan OAKLEY 1980 channel would be where you would need to tune. As far as time, what time do you guys actually start for the American time zone? Because I know usually when I get through doing the show description and everything, you guys have been at it for a while. Oh, I forget. He already left. I'm talking to him.
I was going to say, the bloody hell's you? In terms of UK time, it's normally 2 o'clock and then 3 o'clock because Nate's
there.
Yeah.
So that'd be.
So it's minus 6.
It's really early in the morning.
I'm sitting here waiting for Anthony to answer.
You were waiting for him, right? Because we've been yapping up, and he's gone. So sorry about that, Brian. It's early in the morning. If you go subscribe after you hit that subscription button and thumbs up here, go check out Nathan OAKLEY 1980 Ranty with not with an exclamation mark. What is it? Ranty Flat Earth now?
Yep, that's it.
Ranty Flat Earth. Oh, and I've blanked out completely. Sleeping Warrior. Thank you. Ooh. Yeah, it's been a long day. Sleeping Warrior are the channels that will keep you notified on what's going on with the Flat Earth debates. And certainly, there is a place that you can jump on and have your way with quite a few ballers.
And for Brian there in chat, if you didn't know, we can also find us on Tuesday mornings and Friday mornings over on Truth Frequency Radio. We do a little show over there called the Ironworks. It runs a bit earlier. We go 4 a.m. Central to 6 a.m. So
5 a.m. Eastern.
That's right.
2 a.m. Pacific.
But that is just 10 a.m. in Greenwich Mean Time.
I'm not even sure where Brian is. Brian, where are you out there on the plane? I'm
It's
not even
more-
in the chat. Let me get back to chat.
It's more civilized
Are
town,
we
isn't it?
going away? Aren't we leaving?
It's like, I thought we were supposed to leave like 20 minutes ago, weren't we?
We're hanging on. I was going to say,
All right,
like,
so-
10 o'clock is more civilized in the UK, but you guys know I never, I hit the chat and then I fall away. So I've got to admit, I always...
I do say I'm bad about staying in it. I get sidetracked looking for something.
I always catch you guys later after work on the morning show. I'll say good morning because, you know, Josh knows I like good morning. He knows I like it.
Yes. I play that down so much that when we mess up and don't play it at a segment,
Yeah,
the listeners, they notice. They go, "Hey, where's the?"
that is correct. Like just like I am on Nathan's show, I'm a listener on the Ironworks, mate. I've had the odd guest appearance, and whilst I might get ridiculed by my
Thanks, Zach.
more
I'm
formal
sorry,
title
Adam.
that I seem to have adopted. I've heard of Mr. and Sir and Professor and Doctor, but it seems to be developing on TFR anyway.
We're gonna spread the love as far as we can.
Well, hey, Brian, real quick, before we get out of here, why don't you post a link for your show? We'll get
Absolutely. I was actually going to get over there and subscribe here if I haven't already to your channel.
Used to crazy hours. His co-host is over New Zealand, so that worked out well.
I'm going to go sideways before we go, and this may make no sense, but I have a level of generosity in me, and one of the pre-reg pharmacists, he's going to take his exams in the next month, and he's been working with me closely for the past few bits. He went for a haircut the other day, and he is a good lad, and he's gonna look after a lot of people. He's been trained well, but he came back and he looked at me as I walked in the door. He was there, and I looked at him, and I looked up and I saw his hair, and he looked at me. He says, "Don't worry, I'm going to the hairdressers later." So I went to the till and I gave him 20 quid. And I said, "Thank God you look like Brian Cox." And he's come back today with more gel. He's more upright and he looks nothing like Brian Cox. So thank you, Sam. Good lad. And both him and the other doctorate student are starting to get a little bit of realisation, mate. It's really refreshing to know that as much as the ballers pretend that anybody with an education can't contemplate flat earth. I've got, like I said, young Sam there, he's a top lad. He listens, he doesn't necessarily agree, but he really does contemplate the points in it and at least honestly accept them from a scientific point of view. And I've been lucky enough to have a young lad called Matt who I'm supporting in doing his doctorate, and he's been absolutely outstanding. It kind of got to him. I didn't go preaching early on, Josh, but I said goodbye to him this week because he's got all the data he needs, and he's left with more interest in flat earth than I think the doctorate that he started with us. So be interesting to see where it leads. And Matt, good luck in your PhD, pal. I hope you get it. I'm sure you will. And you know where we are when you want to make sure it's definitely flat. I know you know it is. But good luck, both.
Awesome. All right, then. I think it's about that time, then.
Yeah, I've got to. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Another great show. Not too long. It's not going to be a 7-hour show. that nobody's gonna want to watch because it's 7 freaking hours. So I think it's gonna work out well. I think it's gonna be lots of good stuff to pull from. I think we should be able to chop this one up and do little excerpts. So just remember that. And then everybody check out Brian Stavely's website over there, realnewsonline.com. Check out what he's got going on over there. He's got a YouTube channel. Right now, the links are in the chat. We will try to get those over onto the show description and hopefully have them clickable. My dogs are going crazy. Guess that's my cue.
Sounds it.
Love you.
God bless everyone. Good night.
Love you, Josh.
Sounds good. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Another great day.
Yep.
Stupid dogs.
All right. I'm out. Love y'all.
Love you. Be well.
We're up pretty high. Our heads are almost in the clouds, and their feet are chained to the ground with their chains of misery. They've got a hold of me. They won't let go of me. Let go of me. They might have gravity on their side, but something's pulling us high. Got the potential to fly. Don't let them be what holds you back from this one incredible chance. They're lucky to have had a glance at you while you defy gravity. They can be cruel and mean and a huge pain. Our heads are in the clouds now.
Hey, because around there.
Make it rain. A smile can be the sun.
No, we are not.